A married man got me pregnant, but didn't want anything to do with the baby. Now his wife found out about the affair and wants to reach out. I, 26 feet, had an affair with a married man, 42 meters, a few years ago. I had no clue he was married when we first met and got together. I obviously looked him up on social media, and while he did have photos of his kids on there was absolutely no mention or photos of a wife at all. I found out that he was married about a month after we first got together, but he told me it was just a marriage on paper and that they basically lived separate lives and agreed to remain married for practical purposes until the kids were older. They owned a business, which she really ran and he was just financially involved in. I knew at the time that I probably shouldn't believe him, but I convinced myself it was true. I was in my early 20s and so attracted to him, and I guess almost infatuated with him. He made me feel so good. I know now that I should have ended it immediately, but I didn't realize what I was getting myself into. I was addicted to all of the attention he gave me, the things we saw and things we did. I was so naive. I got pregnant about a year into seeing him. I had always been so careful with preventing pregnancy, but during my relationship with him I took stupid risks. I was so high in lust with this guy, it's embarrassing. The things he'd ask me to do, I'd say yes to almost anything. I was in love with him, or I thought I was. I didn't get pregnant on purpose with any intention of him leaving her for me, even if I wished that we could be a real, normal couple. I was surprised by how excited I was to be pregnant with his baby. I wanted that baby once I found out I was pregnant. The thought of carrying this baby of the man I loved was so special to me, but I knew he probably wouldn't feel the same. I told him I was pregnant and he told me I couldn't keep the baby. I expected his reaction, but I was devastated and it hurt me to my core that he didn't feel the same way I did. He offered to pay, to make a whole weekend of it somewhere exciting, weird, and to buy me something special if I'd just please get rid of the baby. He explained that he didn't want any more kids, and that he couldn't openly be a father to another kid when he and his wife were still pretending to be happily married. I agreed to do what he wanted and we made plans for him to pick me up and find somewhere out of town to go get it done. I was all packed the night he was going to pick me up, but I started to feel really scared and really unsafe about the whole thing. I took my bag and checked myself into a hotel to hide because I couldn't go with him. I texted him to say I promised to never contact him again and to never name him as the father or go after child support if he'd promised to leave me alone. At first he tried to sweet-talk me into doing what he wanted. When I didn't cave in, he said some very nasty things to me and that I essentially better never contact him again or show up at his door. I have a 2-year-old now. At times, it's been difficult, but overall we are thriving as best we can. I have kept my word about not naming his as the father or requesting child support. His wife contacted me on social media. Well, she's his ex-wife now. She wants to talk to me. She found out about me and told me that she divorced him 6 months ago. She wants her children to know their sibling and for my child to know his siblings. That's weird to me. I haven't responded back to her yet. I am unsure about how to approach this. I wonder if I'm being selfish by not exploring an option for my child to know his siblings, if she's being genuine about that. If I was married and my husband fathered a child outside of our marriage, I don't think I'd feel the same that she does. Update 1. Things have only gotten stranger. Quick recap: but about a month ago his ex-wife reached out to me via social media, claiming they had been divorced for 6 months and that she wanted our children to be able to know each other. Now, their kids are teenagers, so I didn't really think they'd want anything to do with the toddler and the woman their father was having an affair with. It seemed odd to me. I sort of decided that I wouldn't respond to her. I'd just ignore it. She just sent me the one message, so it wasn't as if she was badgering me about talking to me or meeting me. On Friday night I decided to message her. I don't really know why. I think it was really just for my sake so I could have the chance to apologize to her. I told her that I would be more comfortable speaking with her face to face since I couldn't trust that it was really her. She said she understood. I was too nervous to meet her in person, but we did a video chat. I didn't know what to expect, if this was all a ploy just to unleash her fury on me or what. I mean, I deserve that. She wouldn't be wrong to feel that way. It was really her. She told me she discovered our affair when she found communications between the two of us, after our relationship had ended. She told me I'm one of many women he had affairs with over the years and she knew about somebody even before he met me, but she didn't divorce him at the time. Finding out about my child was the final straw for her. I told her I was sorry for my relationship with her husband and admitted that I knew he was married. She graciously told me she forgives me and that while she harbored a lot of anger towards me initially, she ultimately blames her husband. I'm not blameless, but she chooses to not hate me, essentially. She said she couldn't have said this 6 months ago or a year ago when she first found out about me, but she has moved past that. She still has anger toward him, in addition to many other emotions surrounding him. She started pouring out her heart to me about their 20-plus year marriage and life together, and it was very awkward because what do I even say? Her kids know about me and my son. She says they're very mad at their father. Somehow I don't think they're mad about the fact that he's not involved with my son's life. And why would they be mad about that? I would hate me if I were them. I told her with my son being so little right now, I don't really feel comfortable with him meeting her kids or being involved with their family. I feel unsure about it and it's just not something I feel needs to happen right now. Then she told me her ex-husband was in a bad accident 2 months ago. He's fine now, still not allowed to return to all his normal activities just yet, but will be fine. He is probably the most physically active person I've ever met, barely ever seems to sit down, so he must be terribly annoying to be around if he's not allowed to go all the time. She told me he wants to meet my son. Apparently she moved back in with him temporarily when he first came home from the hospital. She said the accident really shook him up and he has been expressing a lot of regret about my son, not being involved, not providing for him. So now it's like was everything she said just a lie and he somehow got her to reach out to me on his behalf? And she actually did it? It felt almost like a relief talking to her initially, but then it's like was any of that true or you were just trying to be his messenger? I don't even know if that part is true now. Why wouldn't he just contact me himself? I'm just feeling so uneasy about the whole thing now. Update 2. I received a handwritten letter from him. In it, he expressed how he wanted to get to know our son, he wants to be a father to our son, he wants to provide financially for him, he'd like us to come visit him. He asked me to sign a paternity affidavit. I refused to do so. I know he is my son's father, but I'm not going to make this that easy for him. After the things he said to me and threatened me with, he at least has to work for this. At that point, my parents felt that we needed to meet with a lawyer. All communication from me has gone through a lawyer. I have never responded to him personally or directly. Now, I have a court order for paternity. I have to present my son to have a specimen taken tomorrow. I already know what it's going to say. It's not that I don't want my son to have a dad in his life. It's just the whole situation is a mess. And he lives a few states away from me. I don't know what to do. I can't really do anything. He's doing things legally. Next, I'm sure he'll petition for some form of custody or visitation. He's not married anymore, supposedly, but he's a lot more established than I am. He has considerably more financial resources. I also know he has all sorts of connections where he lives. Luckily they don't hold as much weight here in my state, but it's still so scary to me. I'm a bad mom. I brought my son into this world knowing it was a messy situation. I just got so comfortable with it just being the two of us, and now I don't want to give that up. What should I do? A police officer took my number because I was a witness, but turns out he only took it to slide into my DMs. Now he's saying he'll arrest me if I don't make him my boyfriend. 2 months ago, there was a domestic dispute in my building. I, 25 feet, was coming home when I noticed 2 police officers waiting for the elevator. I would have waited for the next one, but we only have 2 elevators, and one was broken. I rode up with the officers and was surprised to see that we all got off on the same floor. It was my floor. Apparently, the disturbance was in the unit next to mine. I've only lived here for 3 months, so I don't know any of my neighbors. I didn't think too much of it at the time and went into my unit and closed the door. About 30 minutes later, I heard a knock at my door. It was one of the police officers I had ridden up with in the elevator. He asked me to open the door, but I was hesitant, so I asked if we could just talk through the closed door. He showed me his badge through the peephole too, I guess, make me feel safer, but that didn't help. He told me he needed to see my identification because I might be a witness to what occurred in the unit next to mine. I told him I saw nothing, so I wouldn't be much help. He told me that either I talk to him now, or I have to go to the police station in the morning, which could take all day. I'm a student. I couldn't take off a whole day to talk about an incident, so I agreed. He didn't come inside my place. We chatted at my door. He asked me for ID, so I gave him my driver's license. He wrote down my information, my number as well, and told me he would be in contact. 2 days later, I spotted him at my building after coming home from class. He asked me how my neighbors were doing, and I said fine and tried to get into my building. He stopped me and said he thought he and I had chemistry the night we met and asked me out. I told him I had a boyfriend, a lie, and sidestepped him into my building. The next day, I got a call from my grandmother. She told me that a nice police officer came by and was asking very personal questions about me. The person she described sounded exactly like the police officer who asked me out. My license has my grandmother's address. I was living with her before, and I haven't had time to go and change it. At this point, I was freaking out. I told her not to talk to him and not to answer the door if he comes back. 2 weeks ago, I was walking home from class and jaywalked to get to my building. I heard someone calling my name, so I turned around, and it was the police officer again. He told me he could fine me for jaywalking because it's illegal, but he wouldn't if I went out with him. I told him again that I'm seeing someone, but he told me my grandmother said I was single. I told him it was a new relationship, so she wouldn't know. He said he would hold off on the jaywalking ticket, but not for long. It's been a few weeks since that confrontation, but I see him pretty often. I live in a safe neighborhood, but he seems to always be parked somewhere near my school or apartment building. I'm on a student visa. I'm Canadian. I can't afford to have a ticket on my record, but I'm also very worried that this police officer will escalate the situation if I don't go out with him. I told one of my closest friends about this, and she told me what this police officer was doing was romantic, and I'm an idiot for not going out with him. Update. I just wanted to start off by thanking those who responded to my last post. Most of you were very sympathetic and stressed that I needed to do something because this wasn't going to resolve on its own. Honestly, I didn't realize it had gotten so bad until I posted. I'm located on the East Coast in a small college town with fewer than 50,000 people. There are less than 60 police officers. From social media accounts, I was able to find 2 other police officers, brother and cousin, who share the last name of the officer who has been begging me to date him. I first interacted with a police officer in late March or early April, so this has been going on for a couple of months now. Some of you were concerned about my grandmother after the officer paid her a visit. She moved out in May, which is why I moved out. She lives in a senior home hours away from me now, so she's fine. The campus is pretty much empty now that spring semester finished in May. My friends are gone. The only reason I stayed for the summer was because I secured a student research position. I'm kicking myself now for staying, but there was no way I would pass up this opportunity. The morning after I posted, the officer came knocking on my door. He kept singing my name while he knocked, yes, really creepy. I didn't answer. He came back a few hours later. I'm ashamed to say that I hid in my apartment until Monday morning. I was planning on calling the domestic abuse line in my area, which was a great suggestion some of you gave, but I think his visit frazzled me. He had never gone as far as to knock on my door again after that first night we met. I walked to campus yesterday morning, and I was still really alert and scared. I ran into one of my professors from last semester, and she could see that I wasn't okay, so she took me to her office. It all came tumbling out after that. I told her everything about what had been happening. She was super sympathetic. I told her the officer's name, and she didn't look surprised at all. According to her, he's done this before to multiple women. Some women have filed complaints, but nothing has happened because his dad is well connected. The officer has a pattern of escalating once complaints are filed. I told my professor that I was planning on seeking out the victim advocacy group, but she cautioned me against it. Apparently, when spring semester ends, a lot of people take the summer off, and the offices are staffed with locals. The sister of the officer who has been harassing me currently works at the one I was thinking of calling. She stayed with me while I called another advocacy group a bit farther out of town. She also connected me to a lawyer just in case, also out of town. The professor got her son to walk with me to and from campus. I felt guilty about that, but he said he was glad to help. My professor told me the officer targets women who live alone or seem to be alone all the time, which is definitely me this summer. This will be my last update, but I just wanted to thank everyone for giving me the strength to tell someone. A stranger sent me proof that my husband has a secret wife and kids. When I confronted my husband, he thought I would be chill with it. This is a long and complicated story. I'm a mess right now and trying to wrap my brain around everything. I met my husband Jake about 4 years ago on Tinder. Jake comes from a different country to where I am from, but he was my type, and when we started talking I was blown away by how charming and sweet he was. This version of Jake never went away. He has always been this amazingly charming and a sweet person. He's the type of person that when you finished having a conversation with him you feel better about yourself. Just to give you some context, he and I fell in love quickly and got married fast. Also, he was very eager to start a family as it gave his citizenship in my country more legitimacy. By our second anniversary, we were married and I was pregnant with our son. Jake still works in his home country, and so every few months he flies back and stays there with his mother, or so I thought, completes the work required and then flies back. The rest of the work he can do remotely at home. The last few years with Jake have genuinely been the most amazing years of my life, and this is why the last week feels like such a fever dream. This is hard to explain, but a person on Facebook messaged me last Tuesday claiming that Jake had been cheating on me, and that they had proof. I genuinely didn't believe this person and at first just ignored them, but then curiosity got the better of me and I messaged back and asked what proof they had. They proceeded to send me a large collection of photos of Jake with another woman and 2 boys. I know these photos were relatively recent, as he dyed his hair blonde for the Barbie movie, at my request, and has kept it like that ever since. The person told me that the woman in the photo was his wife and the 2 boys were his sons. I obviously didn't want to believe it. I tried to find ways it was fake. Photoshop, AI, whatever, I don't even know. I think the person blocked me after that, as their account just comes up as Facebook user now when I look at the chats. When I had got home, I confronted Jake and he started crying and confessed that everything was true and that he had a wife and 2 sons, who looked to be about 13 and 9, but I could be wrong, that's just my best guess, in his home country that he was still married to the woman. I asked him how he could do this to me, how could he have lied to me for so long? I told him I was going to expose him to the other wife and he said not to bother because she already knows and supports him. I left and have been staying with my mother ever since. This has been the hardest week of my life and some days I genuinely haven't wanted to get out of bed. Jake has been texting me saying that he will break things off with the other wife completely if that's what I wanted, and he texted me saying he thought I wouldn't mind, which genuinely made me sob into my pillow. I have never felt so low. Part of me, stupidly I know, wants to take him back. The years I had with him were the best I have ever had, but this betrayal is just... I don't even know how to explain the hurt I feel. Update. First and foremost, I would like to thank you all for all the advice and support everyone has given me since I posted my original post 4 days ago. It's been over a week since I left to go stay at my mother, and this time away from Jake has been so good for and allowed me to see what was really important to me. Since I originally posted, Jake and I have been talking and he let me know that he has broken things off with his other wife. Apparently it wasn't even a legal marriage thing. He explained to me that when he was a child his parents and his wife's parents arranged for them to be married. This happened when he was 7 years old, by the way. But it wasn't a legal wedding, just like a ceremonial thing that links his family with hers. He said that he never actually loved her, but was required to marry her or his father had to pay so much to his wife's family as like punishment, I guess. I felt really bad for him. I could tell he didn't want to be with her at all and was only doing it so his family were okay. The relationship isn't real on either side, which is what he was trying to tell me when he said his wife supports him. They're only married because they're required to be. I'm so relieved now. He's explained everything to me. He told me he won't be contacting her again, but because of this we will have to send a small amount of money to the wife's family for the foreseeable future, which of course is not ideal. But it is better than the alternative of him going over to be with her every few months. I wish he just told me the truth from the start. But, don't worry, I've signed us up for couples therapy. I know this is likely not the results you guys expected or wanted, so many of you were so bloodthirsty for him without even understanding what he was going through. The thing that kind of concerns me now is what the relationship will be like between my son and his other half siblings. I think I would like to foster a relationship between them if I can. I'm just glad to be back with Jake. I love him so much. After I cheated on my boyfriend, he gave me a list of rules to follow. If I break one, he'd snap his fingers and our relationship would cease to exist. I, 24 fingers, have been with my boyfriend, 24 meters, for 6 years now, but during the 3rd year of our relationship I cheated on him with a close family friend. I had started taking him for granted and it became easy to cheat because I didn't value the relationship. He broke up with me and we were split for months. During the time I was single, I realized he is a great man and a great boyfriend. I begged for him back and he took me back, but I had to promise to never speak to the guy again. I'm happy to say I never cheated since then and haven't been tempted at all. I understand how great of a partner I have. That being said, the guy I cheated was a close family friend and recently I rekindled our friendship behind his back. Nothing romantic. You ever meet someone who is a terrible partner but a great friend? That's him. I hated the fact that I let a stupid mishap ruin our friendship. My fiancé found out and was angry. I apologized and we talked and he needed space. He sent me a text of his demands to continue the relationship. Here's the text I received. I can't trust you. Whether it was platonic or not, this is the second time that I know of where I have violated my trust. The hardest part isn't this, but now I have to wonder how many times have you violated my trust or done something behind my back that I just don't know about? You claim this is it, but how can I believe you? I love you and want to work on this relationship, but it's going to require a lot from you. We are postponing our wedding indefinitely. When we first got back together, it took 10 months before I felt secure in the relationship again. I have no idea how long it will take to feel secure again. You must block him on everything and you are to never speak to him again. This now includes family events. If you know he will be there, do not attend. If you didn't know and he attends, you are to ignore him. I have unrestricted access to phones, social media, emails, everything you have. Every password I want to know for any device you have. No hanging out with male friends alone. You are to be home by 1 if you do go out with your homegirls. There will be more, but these are my demands and they aren't up for discussion. If you aren't willing to do it, then the relationship is over. Take your time to think about it. That is everything? I called him, but he said he's not arguing with me about it and don't call him back until I decide what I want to do. I feel that this extremity harsh considering the fact I didn't cheat this time. Ever since we got back together, I never cheated on him. What should I do now? Update 1. We had a really great conversation. He was vulnerable and said it made him feel like I didn't value him. He was crying and it really hurt me to see the pain I caused him. He told me that we won't go forward with this unless I can promise that I won't go behind his back again, because he can't go through this pain again. I told him that I promise I will never hurt him again and will always be honest and upfront from him now. We talked about the rules and he said they will be temporary and will be adjusted when we go to couples therapy. Now it's time to put in the work to repair the relationship. I know it will be a lot of work, but I'm prepared. Thank you to the ones who gave constructive feedback. Update 2. So next month I'll have married this fool. I have been with an amazing guy and we worked through a lot of issues together. I thought I loved him, and I think I still do, but not in love with him. About 3 months ago at my job, we got a new co-worker who is very handsome and extremely attractive. I mean, I never been so physically attracted to someone in my life. We started to deepen our friendship, but romantic feelings came. I repressed mine, but to my surprise he confessed his feelings to me as well. I told him we gotta think about our spouses, but our feelings continue to grow. He told me he stopped being affectionate with his wife because he feels like he is cheating on me when he does that. He only wants to be affectionate with me. I've started doing this same thing and haven't been intimate with my partner. The big thing is a lot of people will be hurt when this comes out. He can't divorce his wife right away because of finances, but he will as soon as possible. I have to call off the wedding, but I really don't want to hurt my current finance. Update 3. I took everyone's advice and decided to end things with my fiancé. This was the hardest thing I had to do in my life. I know you guys think I'm a terrible person, but this is an unimaginable situation to find yourself in. I want everyone to know how much this hurt to do. I really wish I didn't fall in love with someone else. I wish I could make myself fall in love with my fiancé, but I can't. It took me so long to accept this. I hope you guys can understand that I can't convey this enough, that I care about my extra fiancé. I know this will be best for both of us, even though it's hard right now.
Am I the asshole for punishing my son after he said something racist? About a week ago, my family ordered Chinese food for delivery. When the delivery driver came to the door, my daughter, 16F, was taking the cat upstairs to put in her room because he always tries to eat the food. My son, 13M, loudly says, "Make sure to hide the cat from the Chinese guy." He very obviously heard what my son said and was upset by it. I quickly apologized and took the food. I told my son that racist jokes were completely unacceptable and very wrong, and he refused to admit that he was in the wrong. So, later that night I forced my son to write a sincere apology to the delivery driver, a one-page paper on Chinese culture and a one-page paper on why racism is perpetuated by racist jokes and stereotypes. Then the next day I took him to the restaurant and had him read his apology aloud to the delivery driver as well as give him the papers he wrote. The driver was very appreciative of the apology and thanked me for making my son do it. He then told my son about multiple instances where he had faced racist comments and attacks from people while he was a delivery driver. That night my husband and I got into an argument about me making our son do this. He told me that it was embarrassing for our son to have to do the apology and that the punishment didn't fit the crime. I told him that it was much more embarrassing for the driver to have to face that kind of racism and racist stereotypes and that our son would get over the embarrassment. I do not condone any kind of hateful thinking in my house, and the fact that my son said that embarrassed me as well. My husband told me that it was just a joke and it wasn't that big of a deal. I feel like I might have overreacted some, but I think it's important to help my son understand how what he said was wrong and hurtful.
Am I the asshole for refusing to help my stepsister with her house purchase and telling her and my stepfather that it's because of how they treated me as a child? When I, 29F, was about 10, my mom married my stepfather. I have an older brother, Luke, who was 15. My stepfather had Amy and Ada, who were 12 and 11. We didn't come from a privileged background. My mom was a min-wage worker and my dad was absent. Our stepfather had a very good income. Their deal was that they wouldn't combine finances, and they would each contribute equally to the household, and then each takes care of their children with their spare money. So my mom never had anything for us, and my stepfather was spending big on his kids. This included holidays which Luke and I were excluded from. Stepfather would pay for mom, but not us. Luke and I also shared a room even though Amy and Ada had their own rooms and we had a guest room, because stepfather insisted that he was paying more towards the house so my mom's share would only get her one room for the kids. Luke and I were constantly teased for this situation by the three of them as we grew up. My mom always said that we should be thankful because if it wasn't for our stepfather we would not be living in a nice home in a good neighborhood. Anyway, Luke and I became determined to be able to take care of ourselves so that we wouldn't need to take nonsense from anyone. We have both done quite well with our careers and finances and we are in a very good place. Since turning 18 and moving out, my relationship with the three of them has been very limited. I wouldn't call us friends, but we can exist peacefully if we are in the same place. I visited my mom recently and my stepfather mentioned that Amy wants to buy a house now that she's pregnant. He asked me if I'm able to help out a little with the deposit. The house is £500,000 and she needs a £150,000 deposit. She has £100,000 so far. £25,000 on her own, £25,000 from her mum and £50,000 from stepfather. He was asking if Luke and I can help cover the extra £50,000 and he said he'd pay us back as part of the inheritance eventually. I said no. He insisted that Luke and I both own our houses outright and with our incomes so we should be able to help. I said whether I can or not is irrelevant, my answer is no. He reminded me that Luke and I each gave £10,000 to our cousin for buying a house as a gift. Amy is my sister and he's offering to pay us back. I said that was our choice then, this is my choice now. He insisted that we should be willing to help out our family if we're able to. I replied back, like how you helped me and Luke when we were kids. Everyone just went quiet when I said this. After a while, he said if we went back in time he'd have done things differently, treated all four of us equally. I said that's good of you but doesn't make you entitled to my money now. He said he knows he's not entitled, that's why he's asking and promising to pay it back. I said the answer still is no, not entitled to a loan either. My mum later told me I could have turned him down without being an asshole or bringing up childhood which he already feels guilty about. Am I the asshole?
All my friends were invited to a wedding except me, and it turns out there was a reason why. I, 28 meters, used to have a friend group of about 10 people back when we were in middle and high school. When we all went off to college we drifted apart. Nothing major happened to make us drift apart, just growing up and losing contact. We're all still friends but we're not the talk all the time and hang out regularly friends if that makes sense. Of course, some of us remained close and never lost contact with each other. One person from our friend group, Katie, 28 feet, is getting married in a few weeks. I didn't get an invitation but I wasn't hurt. I understood as we didn't stay in contact. One day I was hanging out with my best friend, Barry, who was also in that friend group, and he mentioned that he received an invite and is going to the wedding. I was a little surprised, but I just told him I hoped he had a good time. He assumed I was also invited, so asked if I was going to attend or not, so I told him that I didn't get an invite. He said that was strange because everyone else from the group was going. 2 of them were plus ones as their partners had an invite if they didn't. But they were all going, and Katie knew it and even told Barry she was really happy that the gang was getting back together on her special day. I told Barry I was kinda hurt by that, but I didn't want to make a big deal of it. 2 days pass, Katie calls me, literally fuming that I was whining that I didn't get an invite to anyone who would listen. I told her that I wasn't and I explained to her what happened. She said that she's been getting texts and calls from other members of the group saying that she should have included me and wanted me to put a stop to it. I said I would do my best and that I was sorry that I caused her this trouble. She thanked me for the apology and hung up. I called Barry and asked him why he spread this around, but apparently he didn't mean to. He felt bad that I was hurt and he wanted to ask someone else from the group if they knew why I wasn't invited. They then spread it around and everyone wanted to know why Katie cut me out specifically, so they started asking her. So, I made a Facebook group chat with all of them and politely asked them to leave Katie alone. I told them that I was just hurt in the moment and vented about it to my best friend, and that's where it should have stayed. They all said okay and apologized to Katie. Yesterday Katie made a public Facebook post ranting about me without saying my name and said she had to hire security, and passed on a photo of me to them so that they make sure I didn't try to crash the wedding. This is something I would never do. The comments under the post were calling her out. She called me again and screamed at me that I was ruining her wedding. She told me that some of the friends are considering not going to the wedding now. And now I'm just wondering if I should have just kept my mouth shut or stood up for myself. Did I go too far this time? Why would she just leave me out and invite the others? Update 1. I finally got an answer to why I wasn't invited to the wedding. Turns out that someone else from the group, Sammy, has had a crush on me for years but has been too afraid to tell me or act on it. Sammy was in the bridal party of Katie's wedding and told Katie that she was finally going to make a move on me at the wedding, after she had taken care of her bridal duties. Katie didn't like this and thinks that I'm not good enough for Sammy, but she didn't say anything and decided to just not invite me, hoping Sammy dropped it. But when Sammy heard about me not being invited, she could smell the bullcrap and confronted Katie, knowing exactly why I wasn't invited, and said she wasn't sure she wanted to be in the bridal party after Katie would do something like this to her. That's when Katie called me and flipped out the first time. After the group chat where I asked them to stop, Sammy was so upset that she dropped out of the bridal party, and that prompted the second phone call from Katie, blowing me up. Sammy called me this afternoon and told me everything and apologized for all the crap that had happened. She then asked me out for dinner on the night of the wedding and I accepted. This might seem petty to go out on the night of the wedding, but it was Sammy's idea, and also Katie is batcrap crazy. I've blocked her now, so no more calls, hopefully. Update 2. The wedding day, and my date with Sammy is next weekend. Sammy is considering or joking that she will wear her bridesmaid dress to the date because she loves the color, she already paid for it and claims she looks fantastic in it. I'm a little worried that's too shoving it in Katie's face, but Sammy says she deserves it. Also, Katie actually sent me a letter in the mail apologizing and asking to unblock her so we can talk about this and heal the loose ends. I didn't unblock her. Sammy is completely certain that she's only trying to apologize so that I'll tell the other 4 friends who have dropped out of the wedding to attend it. Update 3. Our date went really well. She stayed over on the night, and we hung out the next day too. Out of the 10 people that were in that friend group, 4 went to the wedding. Sammy has Katie blocked on everything, but Katie has sent her 3 written letters trying to convince her to reconsider dropping out of the wedding, and she even showed up at Sammy's house twice to try in person. Sammy burned all 3 letters and didn't answer the door both times, but told Katie through the door the second time that if she didn't go away, she would call the cops. Katie called her an ungrateful skank and ran away. While the wedding was going on, the 3 friends at the wedding were leaking info to Sammy and I in a group chat. Katie replaced Sammy in the wedding party with another cousin in a dress that didn't match the others. Katie seemed happy throughout the wedding, and honestly, despite all this, I'm happy that she was happy at her wedding, or at least pretended to be happy, as Sammy said she might be doing. I'm glad this is all over and Sammy and I are starting something exciting.
All my plants started dying mysteriously, and I discovered what my husband was doing. Now I'm worried he's plotting something bigger. I, 31 feet, have many houseplants, and even some that were quite expensive and were gifts from my sister. Within the last 6 months, at least a third of my plants have died. I have had houseplants my whole life due to my late mother's own love of houseplants, and I know a lot about plants, so I love them. The death of the plants didn't seem related to lack of light, or inconsistent watering, or lack of nutrients, or even root rot. They just died very suddenly. I tried to not let it upset me too much because plants die and it was not any of the expensive ones until now. My sister gave me a 5-leaf Monstera albo-rooted plant for my birthday 2 months ago. It was so beautiful. This morning I was crying pretty hard about it. It was definitely one of my favorite plants. As I unpotted it, I was looking hard at this plant and its roots to see if its death was pest related, and that's when I noticed a smell. I sniffed my potting mix and I smelled bleach. The only other adult person in my home with unlimited and unobserved access to my plants is my husband, 32 meters. I wasn't able to talk to him for several hours, but when I could speak to him I very calmly but very directly asked if he had done something to my plants. He denied it at first. I said I smelled bleach in the potting mix of the albo my sister had gotten me, and that the only person that could have put it there was him. He ended up caving in. He said he was putting small amounts of bleach into the fertilizer water jugs I prepare. I started crying. I asked him, why would you do this? You know I love these plants, why would you destroy them? He didn't really answer, nor did he really apologize. The trust I had in him is absolutely gone. I think maybe counseling can help us, but he is the one that did this, so I'm the one that would have to set up the counseling. The angry part of me just wants to be done with the relationship. I know that might seem overboard, as we are married and share a child, but I feel now that I'm not safe around my husband. What would you do if your significant other started bleaching your plants? I'm really stuck here. Update 1. I thank everyone for giving advice. The townhome we live in is mine and my sister's, our inheritance from my mother. My husband has a room that is part office, part den and part gaming room. That is his personal space and there are no plants there. There are also no plants in the kitchen. I'm not a plant hoarder. Like he has a room for himself, I also have a sunroom and that is where the concentration of plants live. He has no reason to go in there. It's not access to our backyard or anything. I saw some people saying maybe he's sick of bugs, but I do not have a fungus gnat problem. I did see one person ask why did I not smell the bleach when I was watering? And I can only say my nose wasn't all up in there maybe? I also usually use a natural systemic in my fertilizer water that smells heavily of rosemary, but I ran out last month and haven't replaced yet. After our convo yesterday I needed space. I spent the night in my daughter's room on a trundle bed. I'm going to text my husband today. He usually communicates easier and opens up more via text, rather than face to face. I'm going to ask for a reason and I'll see what he says. Update 2. My husband won't be welcome in my home anymore and I need to find a lawyer as soon as possible on Monday. I did text him and he admitted again to putting bleach in my fertilizer water. He says it wasn't every jug I ever made, so that explains why it wasn't all my plants dying, but randomly over the past 6 months. His exact words were, "You deserve to be knocked down a peg." After the text communication, I went home from work early and I entered his office. I usually respect his space absolutely. I don't even go in there to grab dirty dishes. I don't know what I was looking for, but the hundreds of comments saying he was working up to something worse or already was doing something else really worried me. I went in there and I found a drawer full of my daughter's dolls and dollhouse furniture and little toys. I bought her that dollhouse for her 4th birthday last year and she has loved it. She takes such good care of her toys, but something always ends up missing and it's always my husband who notices. He lectures her about keeping track of her things and how he won't let her play with her dollhouse if she keeps losing things. He keeps going till she starts to sob. When I hear this going on I always step in and ask him to go take a break. I assumed he was losing his cool. I've told him this is not how to deal with this with a kid and he says he just wants her to grow up responsible. I now see it was some weird scheme? Or setup or something? He would steal the stuff and stash it away and point out it was gone to berate our daughter till she cried. My sister, her husband and her husband's dad came over this afternoon and they've changed the locks. I've texted him to tell him he isn't coming back and that he can come on Saturday morning to grab his essential things, but that my bro-in-law and another man would be there to watch. I plan on never seeing him ever again. I'm leaving my husband because I found out that he has been making fun of me behind my back to his ex. My husband, M45, and I, F36, met about 6 years ago. We have been married for 1 year. When we met I was very fit and athletic. I started gaining weight after suffering 2 miscarriages and the loss of my mother to cancer. I was very depressed and barely got out of bed if not to go to work. I stopped exercising and instead started eating junk food. I gained 40 pounds in 2 years. Under this time, my husband, then fiancé, was very supportive and loving. I felt guilty and tried to give him an out several times, but instead he proposed and we got married last summer. Since our marriage, I have been feeling much better and it showed. I have lost around 20 pounds so far and I gained back my muscles and abs. He was so happy to see me feeling better. On his computer, however, it was totally a different story. He was talking, almost under our entire relationship, to his ex-wife about me. His ex-wife, F46, left him about 7 to 8 years ago for her colleague. The relationship didn't work, however, and she tried to get back together with my husband. He had already met me, but they stayed friends, mostly via chat, texting, since she lives 12 hours away. My husband was complaining about everything about me. My job, my depression, my cooking, but mostly about my weight. He was telling her how disgusting I was to him, how he even found it hard to share the same bed since I snored like a dog. He sent her pictures of me while sleeping, sometimes in underwear, with comments about my belly, double chin, back boobs, etc. She found these pictures extremely amusing and she came up with the name White Whale. They both found it hilarious, and now this is what they referred to me as. They don't flirt exactly or talk about being together or starting an affair, but they do say that they miss each other and they reminisce about the time they were married. She's more flirtatious and he really enjoys it. Whatever he's telling her isn't what I have experienced with him. I don't disgust him. He tells me that he loves me all the time. We have great and passionate fun time, and the way he touches and makes love to me is so great. He must be a really good actor if he was in reality disgusted by me. And he hates the few times we have to sleep apart. He's lying and I don't know why he's doing it. He's lying to one of us and I'm not sure if I want to know who he's lying to and why. I decided to get out of this marriage and leave this behind me. Right now I'm acting like everything is normal, but I have started looking for a new job in another city, and a place to rent. I also started with birth control pills, in case something happens between us, and I have talked to a lawyer to prepare the divorce and start the process once I'm gone. One thing I'm not going to do is fall back into depression and weight gain. I will not allow it. What a waste of love he has been. My boyfriend found me looking at old NSFW photos of me and my late husband. My boyfriend, 35M, and I, 34F, have been seriously dating for 3 years, and eventually want to settle down and marry. My late husband and I were together since college and had a very loving and passionate relationship until he was torn away from me in a freak accident 8 years ago. I have mostly moved on, but still miss him terribly. I do not compare my now boyfriend with him, because both have a really special place in my heart. My boyfriend is sensitive to this loss of mine and I have been in therapy. Thankfully, he accepts my late husband as one of the greatest loves I have ever experienced. My late husband and I used to always have an intimate night together on New Year's, and last night I was terribly missing him again. He had gifted me a pillowcase he customized for me made of satin, and I lie down with it whenever I want to feel close to him. It's just how I cope. So last night when my boyfriend was watching TV, we came back recently from a vacation so did not go to any parties. I went to my room, hugged the pillow and opened my hard drive that had our photos. I hadn't opened that file in so long, so I almost forgot I also had NSFW stuff in there, which I wanted to relive. I did not want to delete our intimate photos of us because those are special to me. However, those were not outright naughty tapes. To clarify, I was only looking at the photos. My boyfriend called me to help fix something and I shut my laptop, not realizing what was on it. My boyfriend went to get equipment from the storeroom and I sensed alarm in his voice. When I rushed in, he was questioning what the heck I was doing browsing through those photos, and why do I see a use in keeping such intimate media with a former partner. I tried to laugh it off. I smiled sheepishly because at first I thought he was going to tease me about it, like if your partner caught you being not on your own would. However, when I realized how hurt he was, he simply didn't let me say anything. He genuinely felt hurt and betrayed and accused me of cheating on him and told me that I can sleep with him in his grave. I felt that was crossing the line and wanted to scream my head off but kept calm. My boyfriend never had such a reaction to me missing him before, and I can see why my actions hurt him, but to accuse me of cheating on him feels super wrong. He told me that he is breaking up with me and warned me not to contact him. He left my place and I have no idea how to talk to him. What do I do now? Update. He had left my place last night at around 9 p.m. after breaking up with me, and I had posted my bid in the evening a day after that, while I was still processing the breakup. Maybe I was just looking for validation or trying to unhealthily vent and found it therapeutic no matter what response I got. Now, I truly realize how hurt he must have felt. So maybe an hour into posting this, my boyfriend finally called me back asking to meet. I thought we could have a conversation about it and make up. He, however, didn't intend that. When we met, I asked if we could get back together, offering to remove those files from my laptop and transferring them into a USB drive, all photos, even non-intimate ones, so I don't have an easy access to them. He told me he would ideally be in a relationship with someone who only had him in her heart, and he'd rather I get rid of my husband altogether, but it's unfair to me. He said he realized what he wants is to be number one in someone's heart. He put up with a lot of stuff just because I am a widow and doesn't think he would date one again. It really hurt me when he told me that my action has damaged any trust in our relationship, and even if he wanted, he couldn't pretend, and what hurt me the most, he says he has lost feelings for me. He initially had finally decided he would propose to me by the end of the year, but now it's not in his plans. I was incredibly hurt and started bawling, but he wouldn't comfort me. He simply wished me the best and told me he hopes the memories of my husband keep me warm at night. Which I found petty and disrespectful, but was too stunned to say anything. I'm going to take some time to heal now, then see where the world takes me.
My girlfriend lost her entire college fund for this semester to a scam. I really don't know what to say, honestly. I really love my girlfriend a lot, but I just can't put up with her naivety anymore. She lost $14,500 to a crypto scam. She knows nothing about crypto at all, nobody we know invests in it, and she fell for the scam over Twitter. That money was not just hers, her parents and I contributed most of it. She only works part-time as a server, so it really feels great to know that the last 5 months of saving away has been for nothing because she naively thought a 12-hour-old account on Twitter was going to give her 50 bitcoins because she won a giveaway. She's always been a moron, if I'm honest with you. She falls for things so quickly it's kind of absurd. This isn't even the first time she's done something incredibly stupid before with money. She's always falling for sham pseudoscience scams and buying incredibly expensive supplements and products. She actually believes the YouTube scam ads and will freely give away her credit card info to any site she finds herself on. Those are easy enough to get past, however, because $50 of some stupid bottle of pills is one thing, 14.5K is another. I'm just tired, I guess. She actually still believed after a week that the transaction to transfer the 50 Bitcoin to her wallet was still on hold, and it was only me discovering her bank account had been emptied that I figured out she messed up massively. I don't even have the heart to tell her parents right now that their daughter just messed up so massively that she actually cannot attend school this semester. Now she's convinced if she contacts the FBI she'll be able to not only get her money back but the 50 Bitcoin she was promised. The fact that she cannot pay for her tuition this semester does not even cross her mind, and she still plans to attend classes and just take out a loan or something until the FBI gets her money back for her. I'm planning on breaking it off this week. I'm going to tell her parents ahead of time so they don't just get dropkicked with the info that she fell for the scam. Do you think this is the right move for me?
Am I the asshole for deleting my friends' wedding photos in front of them? I'm not really a photographer, I'm a dog groomer. I take lots of photos of dogs all day to put on my Facebook and Instagram. It's my thing, if that makes sense. I cut in a photo with every appointment. I very seldom shoot things other than dogs, even if I have a nice setup. A friend got married a few days ago and, wanting to save money, asked if I'd shoot it for them. I told him it's not really my forte, but he convinced me by saying he didn't care if they were perfect. They were on a shoestring budget and I agreed to shoot it for $250, which is nothing for a 10-hour event. On the day of, I'm driving around following the bride as she goes from appointment to appointment before the ceremony, taking photos along the way. I shoot the ceremony itself, and during the reception I'm shooting speeches and people mingling. I started around 11 a.m. and was due to finish around 7:30 p.m. Around 5 p.m., food is being served and I was told I cannot stop to eat because I need to be photographer. In fact, they didn't save me a spot at any table. I'm getting tired and at this point kinda regretting doing this for next to nothing. It's also unbelievably hot. The venue is in an old Veterans Legion and it's like 110 and there's no AC. I told the groom I need to take off for 20 minutes to get something to eat and drink. There's no open bar or anything. I can't even get water and my 2 water bottles are long empty. He tells me I need to either be photographer, or leave without pay. With the heat, being hungry, being generally annoyed at the circumstances, I asked if he was sure, and he said yes, so I deleted all the photos I took in front of him and took off saying I'm not his photographer anymore. If I was to be paid $250, honestly at that point I would have paid $250 just for a glass of cold water and somewhere to sit for 5 minutes. Was I the asshole? They went right on their honeymoon and they've all been off of social media. but a lot of people have been posting on their wall asking about photos with zero responses. Am I wrong for this?
Am I the asshole for revealing to my dad's wife the real reason why me and him were never close? My dad practically gave me up to his sister from the moment I, 27M, was born. My mom died when she was giving birth to me. And my aunt told me he never recovered from that because he blamed me for her dying. It hurt a lot as a kid that at family events he would ignore my existence. When I was a little older he got more vocal about me unaliving her and he can't stand to look at my face. You can imagine the amount of therapy that put me in. I used to go to church crying because I was scared about going to hell for doing that to my mom. That's how much his words fricked me up. But the poopy part was that I never stopped trying to be accepted by him. After my high school graduation he told me to never bother him again since he legally has no obligation to me anymore, since he was sending my aunt money to take care of me. Around that time is when I finally started accepting that reality, so from there we moved on with our lives. My aunt doesn't talk to me about him. Sometimes my grandparents do, and that's how I found out he got married. They were mad he didn't invite me to their wedding, but to me it didn't matter because we're not close. But it was his wife who wanted to meet me. It's the first time ever that he wants to make contact, and it was to pretty much say she wants me on their life. She doesn't know the real reason about why we're estranged. He asked me to please not say anything and maybe this could be a way to reconcile after all. But he was only doing it for her. That much was clear when we talked. I never said I would be. He still insisted on us meeting at their place because she really wanted to meet me. All she thinks is we were estranged for not getting along in my teenager years, going to college and losing touch because of life stuff. It pissed me off that he played it off as us just not talking for petty reasons. Meanwhile the actually reason damaged me for years. I told her the truth. Everything he said to me. That he was never a parent to me, that was all my aunt. It was definitely a shock for her. The outcome was a disaster. Everyone has heard about this now. My grandmas in particular told me she understands my anger. But this was his chance finding someone since losing my mom, and now it's been put in jeopardy. My dad is devastated. They think it was going too far to ruin his marriage that way when he was willing to include me in their lives, which could have been the start of our relationship. And they say not only did I ruin that, but also possibly wrecked his marriage. She just doesn't agree at all with what he did, and it could have been avoided if I didn't say anything. For me it was hard not to tell the truth after the lies made it seem like it was nothing serious. I couldn't ignore what happened after what it did. I'd give it was the right call since it put their whole marriage at risk after all. So, am I the asshole?
Am I the asshole for making my stepmom look crazy so I can avoid babysitting her kids? I, 16F, live with my dad. My mom passed in a bad accident a couple of years ago. My dad met Josie in a grief group or something like that, and they got married last year. Josie has 2 kids, 8M, 6M, and I hate living with them. The older kid has like really bad ADHD and is constantly accidentally breaking things, making messes, and has meltdowns over the smallest things. The younger is kinda similar but not quite as bad. They both get into my room and take things or break them. I babysat them once when our parents were dating, and I'd rather jump off a building than ever have to watch them again. Josie offered to pay me when they were dating, but I said no. Now that we all live together, she's been trying to make me deal with them more and more, usually while my dad's not home. My dad thinks I should bond with them more, but he said I don't have to babysit. Josie keeps trying to pull the just watch them for an hour while I go to the store or loading me up with chores since I'm not watching the kids. I have chores that I do already, so it's not like I'm doing nothing. I just want some time to myself on the weekend. My dad doesn't see it happen, so he thinks I'm exaggerating. I have the smallest bedroom in the house we moved into, but I found out when I was putting stuff away that it has a hatch into like a side attic. Nobody else knows about it. I've started keeping stuff I don't want anyone else to get into in there, and it's big enough that I can spread out a blanket and some pillows and read or work on my laptop in peace. I had the idea to just go in there and avoid Josie when my dad's not home, and it worked. She called for me and came looking for me but couldn't find me. My dad texted me and asked where I was, and I told him in my room and dropped my phone location for him to see. Josie still couldn't find me, but I slipped out before my dad came home and was laying on my bed with a book when he got there. Josie got big mad asking where I'd been, and I said in my room. My dad showed her the location I sent when she said I was lying and snuck out. Now they're arguing because Josie insists I wasn't in the house, and my dad thinks she's lying and taking it out on me because I wouldn't babysit. I do feel a little bad now because I am making Josie look kinda nuts, but I also don't want to babysit or spend my entire Saturday doing chores. Am I the asshole for this? Every night my bathroom looks like a crime scene, but my husband denies everything. Now I know what's going on and it's super gross. Since my husband, 26 meters, and I, 24 feet, moved into our apartment 8 months ago, I have been finding random blood spattered on the walls, cabinets, and floors around our toilets, and once even our bathroom mirror. They're usually very small droplets, but sometimes they get smeared on the walls or floor, I assume when they're fresh and wet. I know that the first suspect would be blood as a result of menstruation, however, I have not had a period in years thanks to my birth control. So, that pretty much takes me out of the picture. I first noticed the mysterious mess around 4 months ago. I've asked my husband about it, and the first few times he would tell me that he had no clue where it came from or how it got there. But after I would clean it up, new ones would appear, and so I would ask him again. Eventually he told me that sometimes when he blows his nose bleeds, and it could be from that. I partially accepted that answer, however I can't recall a single time where I've blown my nose and missed the tissue so much that my snot sprayed all around me. I also mentioned to him that your nose is not supposed to bleed when you blow it and maybe he should see a professional urgently to see what's up. He refuses, and says it's fine. So the cycle continues. I clean up blood droplets and they reappear around our toilets in a matter of days. When I mention them he gets frustrated and short with me and doesn't want to talk about it. He has doubled down on the "it's from blowing my nose" thing, but I still can't imagine how that would be possible. Firstly, how could he blow his nose so terribly that it sprays snotty and other goodness in every direction, and secondly, how could his nose bleed every day and him not feel concerned about it? I recently asked him if his nose has always done that. I previously dated somebody with a thin nose lining, and they once got a massive nosebleed from me doing the "got your nose" thing, so I know it's possible. But he said no, he doesn't think it's been like that always, and then he pressured me to stop the conversation. Also, I would never find blood in our previous house's bathrooms, and we lived there for 4 years. I'll add that we have a regular intimate life and I've seen basically every inch of him and there's no sign of any trauma anywhere. I'm sick of cleaning up this red mess, and I'm also repulsed by the idea that he doesn't know how to blow his nose without spraying mucus everywhere. I'm also very concerned for him if he really has new nosebleeds every day, as a friend from high school had this happen and he ignored it and it ended up being cancer in his sinus cavities. Has anyone got any idea what could be going on? Or has anyone blown their nose and sprayed snot and muck all over the bathroom before? Update 1. Here are a few answers to some questions I've been asked. While we do have pets, the blood only shows up in the bathrooms, including the guest ensuite where the pets are not allowed ever. Those rooms are closed off. No blood anywhere where the pets are allowed. Also, I am in control of finances and there is never any money missing. Both our direct deposits go into our joint account. He has a credit card, but the only checking account he has is our joint one. He does have hemorrhoids, but so do I, thanks Crohn's disease, and I've never made a mess anywhere but the toilet. One reason why he wouldn't want to check this out would be because he gets medical anxiety, and this could be why he is defensive. If it's him, he better go see a doctor. Apparently when he goes to the bathroom at night he doesn't turn any lights on so that he doesn't wake me, and when he blows his nose he doesn't see the blood since it's dark. Could this be what is happening? There's always the possibility of drugs being taken, I guess. If he were hiding drugs in our tiny apartment, where should I look? I checked inside the toilets. I pulled apart every drawer. Our ceilings are too high for either of us to reach. This is such a strange situation to be in. Update 2. We solved the case of the bloody bathroom. Now, I know some people may truly believe that my husband is discreetly hiding a drug problem, but this isn't happening. The lack of gaps in our finances, no history of unexplainable personality changes, as well as the fact that I cleaned and searched every inch of our 800 square foot apartment and found nothing suspicious, solidified my conclusion that it wasn't drugs. I am pleased to announce that my husband is just gross. But alas, I found myself searching dark corners of cabinets and furniture crevices for secret drug hiding spots and found nothing. I sat him down for yet another conversation about the blood and he reassured me he was having nighttime nosebleeds and promised that he would turn on the lights from then on to make sure he cleaned it up because I did not deserve the burden of doing so for him. He lived up to his promise, and after that conversation I noticed he was turning the light on when he went to blow his nose at night and the blood drops stopped appearing. Fast forward to 2 weeks ago, I was on my phone and came across a video that was titled "Signs You're Using Your Nasal Spray Wrong." The very first sign was new, unrelenting nosebleeds. The metaphorical light bulb over my head illuminated, as I remembered that since we moved to a new part of the state, my husband's allergies have been worse and he started taking a nasal spray to control it. The time of the blood appearing was about a week and a half after he started taking the nasal spray. I know this because he uses my prescription ever since they came out with a pill version that I like better. As soon as he came home, I showed him the video I saw, which also demonstrated how to properly use nasal sprays. Turns out you have to tilt it and not shoot it straight up. He took a week off of the spray to reset his sinuses, and last week started using it again, the correct way. And holy cow! He stopped snoring. His voice sounds different. His nose stopped whistling. And thank the Lord, he stopped having midnight nosebleeds. No more blood, but also no more paranoia on my part, and he can properly breathe out of his nose for the first time we moved here. You may be wondering why he didn't see a doctor when the nosebleeds started. It's because we are poor and he has medical anxiety. Anyway, problem solved and case closed.
My wife is divorcing me after 4 days of marriage, the full story. I met this girl at work. We started out as friends. At the time, she was dating a married man and had carried on that secret relationship for a year. It ultimately ended because he couldn't give her what she wanted. He was already married. I got to know her more and I saw a deeper side to her. We fell in love, adopted a puppy, moved in together. Everything was amazing. Our friends got along well, she integrated into my family well. I proposed to her with a beautiful ring, and had my family get involved with the staging of the proposal. I'm not sure when and where things went awry, but she cheated on me, with some guy she met at 24-Hour Fitness in Cypress, California. She went as far as meeting up with him at the beach, the same beach I proposed to her at. Who knows what else happened? It wasn't until later that I had found out that she had still been snapping that married man early on in our relationship, sending him scandalous photos and videos. In any case, I had been cheated on twice in our relationship, and after the second time, we had both agreed to go to therapy individually and couples therapy. I eventually forgave her, and in my eyes, our relationship had never been stronger and we had never been happier. Here's where it gets interesting. We are a month out from our wedding, finalizing the seating chart and other little details. It turns out she had been cheating on me again. This was with a new guy she met at a CrossFit gym she had just started a few months prior to our wedding. I don't care about the details here, whether it was just an emotional type of cheating or physical. Note that I only found out about this after the wedding. The night before our wedding, we stayed in different rooms. Different hotels, even. She was FaceTiming that new guy and only got 3 hours of sleep. As for me, I was clueless to it all and having a blast spending time with family and friends that I haven't seen in a while, many family members who had flown in from overseas. Isn't that what we were supposed to be doing? The wedding ceremony and dinner reception was a blast. Amazing speeches, good drinks, lots of dancing. My wife and I had taken dance lessons to prepare for our first dance together. It was so fun. Until the next day. She texted me, "I need some space." 4 days after that she says, "I want a divorce." Shortly after, "I want you to move out." 1 week later, she had fun time with the guy. How insane is that? To say that I was blindsided doesn't even begin to describe what was happening to me. Now, 3 weeks later, I am still processing everything. I scrambled to get words out, my emotions together. I was grasping for anything that would give me answers. It was like a cinder block was tied to my ankles, weighing me down under waves of confusion and sadness. She made new friends at the gym, people she could tell her side of the story to. Her real friends, all her bridesmaids and her family members, the ones closest to her, don't know the real story. She has lost friends over this because she continues to lie to everyone. Even though she may have deactivated all her social media accounts, she's not hiding this new relationship. Other people have posted pictures of the two of them together. Anyway, turns out I'm getting a divorce. At the ripe age of 28. Some people never change their ways. As for me, I've learned a lot from this experience. I've learned how resilient I am, the importance of family, friendship, and how deceitful someone can really be. Good luck to everyone in her path.
I gave myself an allergic reaction so my grandma would go to the hospital. 17M. I've been raised by my grandma and uncle my entire life. About 2 years ago something was wrong with grandma, she was crying in pain, and looked horrible but refused to go to the doctor. She was waiting for a chance to just mention it at a doctor's appointment that was 2 months away. She was falling, her legs were practically turning purple, the works. I finally couldn't take it and I had this impending feeling that if she didn't go to the doctor soon she would not be okay. So I made a plan. I am allergic to bananas. I puke, struggle to breathe, and my lips swell up if I eat them. My grandma loves bananas and my reaction only happens when I eat them. So I went to the kitchen in the middle of the night and ate a banana, and then woke up my grandma and uncle to let them know I was reacting. It was more of me desperately patting my uncle awake while trying to breathe and him waking up my grandma. They then took me to the hospital where my uncle managed to convince her to get checked out while she was there. I was fine, but we ended up finding out that the reason my grandma was doing so badly was due to her thyroid, diabetes, and blood pressure issues all acting up around the same time. She was extremely likely to have a heart attack soon if they hadn't put her on the medication sooner, and that was a bad risk considering she's had heart attacks before. She ended up staying at the hospital for a few days and was so much happier and calm when they discharged her. I will never let her know that I ate that banana on purpose. I told them that I had just woken up in the middle of the night and eaten it while half asleep because I was hungry and wasn't thinking clearly. I regret nothing and am so glad Grandma was able to get her help.
I was one bad decision away from cheating on my wife, and it made me reevaluate how I view cheaters and cheating. I, 28 men, have been married to my wife for 6 years and together for 10 years. In that 10 years I have never once even been close to being unfaithful until now. I hated cheaters. My dad was a cheater, his dad was a cheater, his dad was probably also a cheater. I saw how my dad's inability to keep it in his pants destroyed my mom. I knew I would never treat my wife like that and would ensure she feels cherished all the time. I think I do. I want for her to feel loved and have never actively thought about being unfaithful. But now I'm realizing how easy it is, and it's less than just a thought. I am in the military and got sent to Hawaii for a temporary duty assignment. It was 8 weeks due to my wife being tied up at work. She only stayed with me there through the first weekend. While there I developed a close relationship with a coworker a bit younger than me. We had similar interests, wanted to visit the same places on the island while off work, and had great conversations. There was a physical attraction there that I genuinely didn't notice. I just was building a friendship in a new place I was in for a few weeks. What I didn't understand is that closeness I felt, and the attraction formed what I hadn't felt in a while. A crush. Like I was in high school. I would get butterflies when she texted me asking to meet me somewhere. I would stay up awaiting her texts back. I would get nervous to see her and wanted to make sure I looked my best for her. All of this was unconscious, believe it or not. It was until we took a trip to the beach our 5th week there. I saw her in a 2-piece bathing suit and realized I was sexually attracted to her. And from what I felt, she was into me. And it felt kinda nice. She always wanted to see me, always wanted to talk. Always wanted to grab drinks after work. If our hands met, she would linger, she would make deep eye contact as I rambled on whatever dumb joke I wanted to tell. When I became more cognizant, I told myself that I haven't done anything wrong and I wouldn't. Nothing wrong with a friendship. I won't invite her over and I won't accept her invites. I would have more than a beer or a single drink. We wouldn't hang out past 7 p.m. It'll all be good. I broke these boundaries I set multiple times, except going over. Every time I did, I proved that I could be a little lenient without wanting to do her. Which was awful logic. The final test came the week she was set to leave back to her home. She lived in Texas, I was in Maryland. Multiple states away, very little chance we'd see each other again anytime soon. We hung out her last night there. Boundary number 1, we were out past 7. Boundary 2, I had more than a few drinks in my system. She told me flat out, she thought I was very attractive. She said that she really wanted to spend her last night with me. She suggested we split a hotel room and a bottle of wine and see where things went. Boundary number 3. If I had said yes, I would have had sex with her. Even if I backed out last minute, it doesn't matter. The only reason why I would do that is so I could sleep with her. I spent what felt like hours debating it. With her pushes towards this and my inability to maintain boundaries giving away, I was able to spit out a "let's just call it a night, we have to be up early tomorrow." We caught a ride back to our lodging and went out separate ways. She gave me a very long hug at the end of her final day. It felt weird seeing how easy it was. How nice it feels to fall for someone again, and how deeply you can be in it before you even realize you're doing something inappropriate. This isn't to excuse cheating, or to say I am a hero. I did bad things, I did inappropriate things, things wife wouldn't be happy about if I told her. But my point is, it's easy. Too easy. It can just happen if you're not actively working to reinforce boundaries.
Am I the asshole for not telling a guy what I do for work and letting him pay for my drinks during the whole evening? My friend Grace invited me to a board game bar to play and have drinks with her, her boyfriend and one of their friends, Nick. We went to get drinks in pairs, Grace going with her boyfriend, meanwhile Nick and I stayed at the table and vice versa. So Nick and I had plenty of time to talk, just the two of us. Nick started the night by telling about his recent career change. He decided to quit his previous job, go to a coding boot camp, and he got a job as a developer 1 or 2 months ago. He was very proud of himself and his new salary and told me this multiple times. He never asked me what I do for work, but talked about his new job quite a lot, occasionally saying, "Sorry, you don't understand that." During the entire evening, I never told him I have been working as a software engineer for the past 4 years, because he never asked, and honestly, I found it a bit entertaining. When it came to the drinks, he invited me to every single one. Don't worry about it, it's not a problem with my developer salary. I told him multiple times he doesn't have to pay for me, but he insisted. At the end of the night, when we were saying our goodbyes, he took out his phone to send me a friend request on Facebook. My job is listed in my profile, so that was when he realized that I'm software engineer. He asked me if it's true that I'm a software engineer, and I answered yes. He asked me why I haven't told him, why did I let him believe I was a cashier like Grace used to be, and why did I let him pay for everything when I probably earn more than him. I told him that he never once asked, and it was his fault, he assumed. He could have simply asked me about my job, but he only wanted to brag about his. But if he wants me to, I can pay him back for the drinks. He was angry and said I made a fool out of him. I think he did that, not me. But now Grace and her boyfriend are on his side too, saying that it would have cost me nothing to tell him early in the evening and I only kept it for myself for my own entertainment. Well, I did find it entertaining, but I don't really feel like I did anything wrong. Am I the asshole here?
My bully crosses a line, so I remove him from a Minecraft server. In my friend group, there is one kid, Isaac, who has been a bully to me throughout my life. On multiple occasions, Isaac has insulted my intelligence, my mental health, and has made extremely rude and condescending remarks in general towards me. The reason might be because I have different religious beliefs, as that has led to multiple arguments in the past, but I can't be sure. Today we had an argument and it ended with Isaac saying that he doesn't care about me in the slightest and that he doesn't consider me his friend. That wasn't too big of a surprise, but it still kinda hurt. That was the moment I decided to get some very minor but very satisfying petty revenge. For context, our friend group has a Minecraft server that I generously decided to host via a third-party service for a monthly fee. Isaac has been playing and grinding a lot on said server, so I saw an opportunity. I basically said, "Well, if you're not my friend, then I don't want you on my friends-only server." Isaac acted like I was joking, and said that I wouldn't do that. So I straight up banned him. And just so he knows exactly where he went wrong, the ban message that he sees whenever he tries to join the server is friends only. I have a feeling some of our mutual friends are going to be mad at me, but because this just happened they probably don't know yet. So while I wait for replies, I'm going to build a drama fallout shelter. Update, so something big just went down. I was right, some of my mutual friends turned on me. Actually, all of them turned on me. Everyone in my friend group sided with Isaac because they had known him longer than they knew me. Soon enough, every single one of my friends started bullying and harassing me in the Discord server and over text. They were mocking me, calling me names, saying even more mean things about my mental health, and it all came to a head when they started making jokes about me taking my own life. These people are not my friends. They are pathetic human beings. So, I did what any sane person would do and left the server. But not without getting even more petty revenge. Before I left the Discord server, I made sure to take screenshots of everything that they said to me. I then emailed the screenshots to the mom of one of them and went on my merry way. The exact thing that I hoped for took place the next day. I find out from my parents that all of my friends' parents had been spreading my email and the screenshots among each other, resulting in a snowball effect. The people who bullied me got grounded for the foreseeable future, had to completely delete Discord, and get very stern lectures from their parents. Oh, and that's not all. There is one last thing. One of the above-mentioned friends we will call Jane. She and I were good friends, emphasis on were, and because I'm a good guy I bought her a Minecraft account so that she could play on the above-mentioned Minecraft server. After the fallout, I decided to take that account I gifted Jane back into my possession. Because I purchased Jane's account, my email was connected to it. All I had to do was log in using the forgot password feature and change all the login details. I wish I could see her reaction when she tries to play Minecraft on the account I got her and can't log in.
What is the worst thing that has ever happened to you? Losing my 2-year-old daughter to a drunk driver, my mom, and having to pull her off life support. Then watching my mom get sentenced to second-degree murder. My mom had been sober for 5 years from alcohol, and her and my stepdad were helping me raise my daughter. I was only 21, so they were pretty much like her parents. Every morning my mom and daughter would wake up about 6 and go get a yogurt parfait at McDonald's. The morning of the accident my mom for some reason relapsed, and decided to put my daughter in the car and go buy alcohol. At about 9:30 we get a phone call saying they had been in an accident. I immediately called the children's hospital, and they told me I should get up there ASAP as they were rushing her to the operating room due to internal bleeding. I get to the hospital and she was already in the operating room. They explained to me that she had internal bleeding on her brain and they were doing everything they could to save her. A few hours later they explained all the details of what was happening and that she had gone too long without oxygen. They were keeping her alive on machines. I had to sign a piece of paper saying it was okay for them to put a stent in her brain to monitor the pressure. I signed the paper, and when the doctor came back he said it did not look good. That night another doctor came to the family and said we're at a fork in the road, giving me two choices: A, give her this medication, and there's maybe a 2% chance she would recover from this and be a vegetable state her whole life. Or B, you can let this run its course and they will declare her brain dead. The hardest decision of my life was made there that night, that I would not be giving her the medication. My sister and I went down to the chapel and prayed and prayed and prayed. I wasn't sure what I was praying for, but I didn't find myself praying she would survive, for I already knew her spirit had passed on. We were notified that she was declared brain dead at 9:04 p.m. that night. I was also faced with another very hard decision: organ donation. After much prayer I knew that if my daughter and I could stop this from happening to another family, then the answer was yes. We got a call a few weeks later notifying us that my little hero, my daughter, saved 4 babies' lives. My mom spent 6 weeks in the ICU and on my 22nd birthday was charged with second-degree murder. I didn't follow the case as close as I should have, it was too painful. This was 3 years ago, my mom and I are still working on our relationship. I abandoned my devil daughter with my mother-in-law because she thinks she's a better parent than me, but now she's experiencing the hell our daughter brings now that we refuse to pick her up. My daughter, Tamra, 14 feet, has been going through a terrible phase at home. I, 38 feet, can do nothing right, all she does is argue with me and scream. She will not do her chores and she makes life harder for me and her little brother, 12 meters. I was 14 once, so I remember what it was like to be that age. I'm doing my best to just get her through this. I may not always do the best job or keep my cool with her, but I am trying. My husband is out of town right now. His mom, however, lives a couple of towns over and has decided to chime in. Tamra called her when I grounded her for skipping school and vaping green with her Dagon friends. I took away all her screen privileges except her laptop, because she needs it for school. I am a dummy because she called her grandmother on it. My mother-in-law, Helen, is usually a level-headed woman, so I have no idea why she has decided that her parenting advice is wanted or warranted at this time. She said that I am being cruel to her poor baby girl and that I should not be trying to control her like this. I said that I was punishing my daughter for unacceptable behavior and that how I reprimanded my child was not her problem. She countered with the fact that she raised 4 children, all boys by the way, and that she did not have to punish this way. I know her youngest was out of the house before smartphones, so it is different. My daughter came into the room while I was talking to Helen and started screaming about what a terrible person I am and that she wants to move out as soon as she can. Helen said that none of her kids ever said that, so she must be a better mother. I asked her if she was serious and wanted to give it a shot. Tamra jumped at the opportunity and begged her grandmother to take her. Helen agreed. I drove her to Helen's house and said I would come back when my husband gets home and we can talk. I dropped her off on Saturday, 3 days ago. Helen started calling me on Sunday. I need to come get my daughter. Sorry I can't, my son and I went to visit my folks for the week. I thought it would be a good opportunity to see my parents at their farm since my daughter hates it they're away from her friends in the city. My parents are also the last people on earth with dial-up internet. My son does not care because he gets to play with the horses. It is a little early yet for foals, but who knows. Helen asked me to please come get Tamra. She even called my husband. He called me and I told him what was going on. He said that if his mom had asked for it then she needed to follow through. I love that guy. I also fielded calls from my 2 sisters-in-law. They asked me what was going on, so I told them. They asked if I was really going to leave Tamra with our mother-in-law for another week. I said that is where she was staying unless they wanted to watch her. They both noped out without suggesting I go get her. Tamara and Helen each have their reasons for thinking I'm an awful mother. But I want to know what you guys think. Update. I have been busy at my parents' ranch for the past few days. It's been great. My son got to help with the birth of a colt. It is a healthy palomino. A little early, like I said, but it was an easy delivery for the mare. He was over the moon and can't wait to get back to the ranch. My son and I picked up my husband from the airport and he was fuming. Not at us. At his mom and our daughter. He called his mom to let her know he had landed and that we were on our way. When we got to Helen's house, she was waiting out the front. She said that she was sorry for interfering with my parenting of Tamra. She said that raising 4 boys in the 80s and 90s is a whole lot different than a 14-year-old girl today. She said that she had made sure Tamra had entered the school in the morning and that she saw her come out of the school when she picked her up. And that she had not gotten a call from the school about truancy. So I guess that's a win. She also said that she would not be watching Tamra again until she was over this phase. We agreed that was for the best. Tamra was upset that her doting grandmother had taken her vape. Also that her grandmother didn't have cash for her to get another one. And that she didn't have her phone to pay for another one. And that she was not allowed to visit with her friends after school since Helen lives 2 towns over. Tamra was indignant that her actions had consequences. My husband and I gave Tamra a chance to call all her relatives to see if anyone else wanted to watch her. There was either resounding silence or overwhelming no's. I think she finally understands that everyone except us is done with her crap. My husband told her that the week at grandmother's house did not count towards her grounding. So she will be without a phone or tablet for the week he is home. He said that her behavior will determine if she gets her stuff back. For those of you wondering, Helen looked a little like the parents in the airplane after the play in Addams Family Values. Just beat. I take no pleasure in it. She was also smoking a cigarette, which I have never seen her do. Tamra is sulking. But she has appeared to accept her fate. She tried to put her laundry in the hamper, but we said she can do her own. My husband and I did discuss getting her some counseling and will be talking to her school guidance counselor about it. It may be something she could use. Thanks for your advice, everyone.
I accidentally caused a nuclear war between my family, because I didn't attend my brother's wedding, but the truth is quite shocking. So my brother's wedding happened 2 days ago, and it turned into complete chaos, but I wasn't there. Why didn't I attend? Well, it's because of his wife's family. He sent me an invitation because he wanted me there, but his fiancée told him I couldn't attend because I had a boyfriend. Yep, I'm a man, a bisexual man to be exact, and I have a boyfriend who I wanted to bring to the wedding. She said even though she doesn't have a problem with that, her extremely religious parents, who already forced her to do the wedding in a church, would most likely banish us from the wedding and cause trouble between our families. My brother told me I couldn't attend and told me why. I wasn't angry, I was relieved. I hate going to big events with lots of people because of my social anxiety, and I already was used to not being able to attend certain events because of my sexuality. So on the day of the wedding I stayed at home with my boyfriend, but my parents apparently didn't know I wasn't going. I was cuddling my boyfriend when I suddenly got a text message from my parents asking me where I was, because they couldn't find me at the wedding. I told them I wasn't going and if my brother has told them anything. He had told them nothing. I saw no reason to lie, so I sent them a text message explaining the situation. I don't exactly know what happened after I sent them this message, but they left me on read. Apparently my parents talked to my brother about it and all of a sudden my absence was the main topic of the wedding party. From what I heard, 2 fronts formed. One side was my parents and the rest of my family, and the other side was my brother and his in-laws, as he as a husband now felt compelled to take her side. It's crazy to think that I was just sitting at home living my best life with my boyfriend while all of that crap went down at his wedding. The wedding party was ruined and my brother appeared on my door angrily screaming at me why I felt the need to ruin his wedding. I was confused and asked him what happened and he told me everything. I told him it wasn't my intention, I just told my parents the situation because they wanted to know. He screamed at me that I ruined his wedding. I told him it's not my fault that he wasn't honest with them. I just respected their wish to not attend the wedding. I couldn't know it would go down like this. But I gotta admit it's kinda sweet that my parents and the rest of my family stood up for me. They haven't done it before, but it's a more than welcome change. But I still feel kinda bad because I really ruined the wedding party. Do you think I did the wrong thing here? Update 1. A lot of interesting things have occurred since the original events. So after my brother's visit, his wife and him went on their honeymoon. But I've found out that the way the wedding party went may have been even worse than I imagined. What happened now is incredible. My mom and my dad visited me and told me how the wedding party escalated and they were so close to physical violence. I thought it was funny at first, but this truly bothers me. Hearing my parents' side still gave me a bad feeling in my stomach. The terror started as soon as my brother and his wife went on their honeymoon. My sister-in-law's family found both my Facebook and Instagram account and started spamming me with hateful messages. I received insults and hateful messages from various different accounts. They all had somewhat of a Christian theme and all of them had the same last name. So it wasn't hard to find out whose accounts it was. I don't know my sister-in-law's family at all, but I only know her and her parents were homophobic Christians. They not only started attacking me, they also found my boyfriend's accounts and started to send him the same messages. The messages contained on one side typical bigot stuff like, "You're burning in hell for your sins." One even called me and my boyfriend two devils in disguise. The other side were just blatant insults. You get the idea. I called my parents and told them what they are doing. Then I sent a text message to my brother with screenshots of the messages sent to me, and he replied saying that I shouldn't disturb him with that during his honeymoon as I already destroyed his wedding party. I couldn't believe it, he was just like them. He did send me an apology after my mom told me she called him. Here's where things get interesting. I got a call this morning from an unknown number. I hesitated because I thought it was one of them. I was right, but it was none of the people who insulted me. I heard a woman's voice who introduced herself as the half-sister of my brother's wife. She said it didn't go unnoticed what her family was doing and she wanted to apologize for them. I told her I'm not going to tell anyone in her family about this, and that I don't blame her for her family's actions. She thanked me and hung up. I don't know why, but I have this feeling she only did this to protect her family from being reported. My mother wrote to me earlier that she wants to report the insults and the harassment of these people, and demands for my brother to divorce his wife or she will disinherit him from her will. Her reasoning is because that's not how she raised him. A little radical in my opinion, but I understand where she's coming from. Low-key badass. This entire thing escalated so much it's unbelievable. Update 2. It's been a few days. First of all, my boyfriend and I are fine. Luckily for us, they didn't go any further than their text messages. My mom filed a report against them. I don't know the current situation about that as I haven't filed the report myself. The plot has thickened as the lady who called me is actually going to testify in my favor and against her family. It really takes courage to do so. Somehow they found out that she is into ladies too, and no reason to hide it anymore. However, she said she's fine and is going to stay at a friend's house. I have so much respect for what she does. Imagine the strength you need to testify against your own family. I now feel bad for assuming she only called me to save her family from being reported. More importantly, what is the current situation with my brother? Well, my mom talked to him and told him to leave his wife or she will wipe him from her will. He decided to stay with his wife and my mom made her threat come true. He's no longer in her will. My father did the same. When I visited them, I also told them that I wish that this entire situation went differently. They assured me it's not my fault, but I can't help but feel it is. I haven't talked to my brother since then, and my boyfriend feels I shouldn't. He also told me he kinda feels responsible for all this chaos. I assured him it's not his fault, it was my sister-in-law's family's bigotry that ruined everything. But now it's time for me to grow distant to this situation. We will see what the report will do. The insulting and harassing messages continued until 2 days ago. Unfortunately, homophobia is still very much normalized in our society. The reason I'm so calm and casual about the situation is the simple fact that I'm used to situations like this. They don't get to me anymore. I've been into situations where I was sent into hospital because I kissed my boyfriend in public, so insults and harassment like this is nothing I haven't seen before. Update 3. So last time I told you my mother was pressing charges against them, and to my surprise, we won. They weren't going to jail or anything, but they had to pay for their actions, literally. There was one incident where my sister-in-law's dad was actually trying to find out where I lived, and asked my brother who told him. Only God knows what he would have done to us if we still had lived there. But in the time span of the last 2 months, we've moved to a different place which my brother didn't know about. Also, their social media accounts were deleted. However, I don't know if this was part of their punishment or if they did it themselves. After my brother came back from his honeymoon, he begged her to put him in her will again. She said only if he apologized to me. She invited me and my boyfriend over and my brother sat in the living room with this mad look on his face. She made him apologize, but I didn't accept this apology because I could tell it wasn't sincere. He did it because he had to and not because he was actually sorry. I told my brother that I am disappointed in him for who he became. Before that we had this huge bond and never judged each other for stuff like this, yet all of a sudden he has such a problem with me having a boyfriend. I just don't get it. I told him that I miss the old him. He didn't respond to anything. He just sat there quietly staring at the bottom. After I finished, he just got up and left. This was the last time I spoke with him, and it's already been a few weeks since this happened. My parents paid much more attention to the discrimination I face since this incident. They wanted to learn more about the problems I face as a queer person. I really love them. My dad even got a bisexual pride flag for me and asked if he could hang it in our bedroom. I love that I have such great parents. I just wished for my brother to become the person he once was. Since the case with my sister-in-law's family is over, I didn't hear anything about their lesbian daughter. She supported us during the process, but we lost contact afterwards, and I just hope she's fine. Final update. There have been some big things that happened. First of all, I want to give you an update about the sister of my brother's wife. Around 2 months after my update, she texted us and asked if she could come over. We talked a while and I was relieved to find out that she is fine. She said that she moved in with her girlfriend when the case was over. Simply because her parents and the rest of her family had disowned her and threatened her with physical violence if she dares to return. However, the relationship with her girlfriend ended after a while, and she asked us if she could stay for a few days until she found something. She stayed with us for 2 weeks. During that time, my parents had visited us and offered her to stay with them because they had a big house with some free space. She stays there currently because she wanted to study, and my parents had no problem with letting her stay a little longer. Me and my boyfriend also support her financially a little bit. We included her into several different celebrations such as Christmas and New Year's Eve, and I feel like she is like the sister I never had. What's probably more interesting for you is how my brother is currently doing. The truth is, I don't know exactly. We haven't talked since the apology. However, he actually tried to attend our Christmas celebration party, but the moment he appeared, my dad kicked him out and said that, and I quote, "This homophobic rubbish is no longer allowed in my house." I love him. They've now disowned him. My boyfriend and I are still together, and I feel like he might be the one I want to marry. This entire situation made our bond so much stronger. I plan on proposing to him, but there are so many ideas floating around in my head for the proposal that I can't really decide which one. Any ideas? Also, the social media accounts of my sister-in-law's family had disappeared entirely, but I assume they made new ones under new names. I'm just glad all of this is finally over. I don't have any compassion left for my brother. I just wish he had never developed this way. Everything that happened to him, he brought it on himself. I accidentally spoiled my buddy's dream of being a dad, after I made him realize his daughter does not have his genetics. I don't even know how to start, but here it goes. My buddy, 25 meters, and I, 26 meters, both work as engineers for the same company, and we've known each other since high school. He's pretty much my best friend. We played a couple of rounds of Counter-Strike Goofball Offensive tonight, and we're talking via Discord. His girlfriend works as a nurse and will often be on the night shifts, so we usually use this time to game. After the game, we decided to take a quick break for a couple of minutes, so we did the usual crap chat. We somehow talked about school and how both of us really never enjoyed their time there as we grow up. We had both been bullied for being nerdish back in our school days. My buddy said that he hopes his daughter, 3 feet, will have a much nicer time later in school and high school compared to him. It got to the point where we talked about all the unimportant stuff we had to learn while we were there. Well, for me, I've always disliked biology classes as I hated the teacher back then. I mean, really hated them. And I said jokingly to my buddy, trying to sound like my old teacher, the only things my 6th grade biology teacher taught us are mitochondria are the powerhouse of the cell, and you can tell if your mama cheated by your eye color. Ha. My buddy laughing at this point, really, the eye color? How? I then told him, take me for example, I have blue eyes and so does my sister. Apparently blue eyes are what call a recessive gene. If one parent has blue eyes and the other has brown, there is only a small chance for your kid to be born with blue eyes. Well, my parents both also have blue eyes of their own. So it would be more than unlikely for me to have brown eyes. My buddy said, the more you know, then paused for a second. Then he said, be right back, gotta make sure the little one goes sleep now. After that he returned roughly a minute later, and I could hear him almost sobbing. Me and my girlfriend also both have blue eyes, but my daughter doesn't. It took me some time, but I could calm him down eventually. So after that we both spent some time Googling away, but nope, blue eyes are recessive as I remembered. We found out that if both parents have blue eyes, the ratio is 99% blue eyes and 1% brown or green, so highly unlikely. My buddy quickly disconnected from the call. I tried to text and call him, but he didn't answer until 30 minutes later, saying he will call me soon. I stayed up all night telling my girlfriend to go to bed without me. The longer I waited, the worse I started feeling and fearing for the worst. I texted him again and again. He always answered, he'll call me in a couple of minutes. At 5 a.m. he finally called me back and said that his girl came home at 2:30 a.m. and asked him what's wrong. He told her he's not feeling well and will soon get back to bed. He waited until she was asleep to call me back. He told me he will take a paternity test behind her back to have something official to slap in her face. Then he started to cry, so I drove to his place to pick him up and we went to a late-night drive-thru and grabbed something to eat. I've never seen my best friend like this and I feel like I'm the one responsible for crushing his world. He told that he wanted to propose to her on Valentine's Day. But that's off the table. I dropped him off 2 hours later at his place. He said he will call me tomorrow. Now I'm telling you this laying in my bed next to my girlfriend who slept the whole time, while I was unable to sleep. I can't shake the feeling that I destroyed my buddy's life. Update. He is not the father. So the results came in today, and my buddy called me right away. He showed the results his now ex-girlfriend and she broke down claiming that even if their daughter is not his, that they should work this one out. My buddy has told her no and that he will not raise somebody else's kid. She started to demand that, since he has been raising her for 3 years now and that she had in fact stopped sleeping around 2 years ago, so they are all good now and can work this over. He's now crashing at my place while giving her and her daughter 10 days to find a new place to stay. My buddy is the only one paying for the apartment and 2 cars they own and he will sell hers to his niece. He also told me he's giving her 10 only for the kid's sake, otherwise he would have thrown her out right away. He's also looking for lawyers should there be aftermath to this, but test is more than sufficient where we live, so he's pretty much of the hook. Also, if you are wondering, the hospital does 3 tests back to make sure. I hope he can find peace soon. I acted like an entitled Karen and refused to buy my daughter a car, so she gave her number to my enemy and they are now texting. So last week, me, my wife and 2 kids went out to the zoo for my daughter's 23rd birthday. We were having a great time, we all love the zoo. While leaving an enclosure, some woman sort of cut us off and pushed in front of us to get out first. She didn't actually touch us, and it wasn't that big a deal but was a little obnoxious, and I said there's no need to push ahead, love. She responded with something like, how did I push ahead, it's not like there's a queue. I just tutted and thought whatever, not worth it. But then some giant guy, who was apparently her son, said to her, does someone have a problem, And she pointed me out. Her son then turned around and started aggressively antagonizing me for no reason, telling me to keep my comments to myself, called me a female dog, a Karen, and he kept calling me tiny, saying I had small man syndrome. Just really off the wall stuff for what I thought was a benign comment. Then for some reason my daughter, 22 feet, felt the need to take up for this guy, and started saying stuff like, why are you like this, why do you feel the need to say something, and then started apologizing to the guy, and agreed with him that I'm a Karen. I was really taken aback by this. Then the guy asks how old she is and she tells him, and he asks for her number, and she gives it to him. He hands his phone over to her, and she types in her number. Whole time this guy is staring at me with a crap-eating grin on his face. When my daughter comes back over to us, I ask her what the hell was that, and she just says, what? He's cute, and you need to be put in your place every once in a while. I said since that's what she thinks, she can buy her own car for her birthday. She clearly thought I wasn't serious because when she asked if we can look at cars and I told her she can look herself, because I'm still not paying for it. This has divided my house, with my son taking my side, saying she was out of line, and my wife saying it's not worth ruining my relationship with her over. I feel like if not getting her a car as punishment is enough to ruin her relationship with me, then I probably spoiled her too much anyway. She already has a car that I bought her 2 years ago which works fine, so it's not like I'm exactly depriving her. Should I just pay for her car? Was I really out of line? Update 1. I thought I better add some important details. My daughter doesn't live at home and she hasn't since she moved out for uni at 18. The car I bought her 2 years ago was a runaround Fiat 500, second-hand. It is in fine shape but not exactly the nicest car. I had promised my daughter an Audi as my son is going traveling for his 21st birthday, which I'm paying for. The car she wanted was roughly the same cost. I don't feel like I'm a Karen, but I'm not shy to speak up if I feel I must. If people are rude, or something is not up to my standard, I will happily say something. I realistically couldn't beat up the 6FT4 or whatever 20-something-year-old mouthing off to me. I am 47 years old, and have worked an office job for the last 20 to 30 years, and have a bad back. Don't expect me to win in hand-to-hand combat. Update 2. My wife called me into the room to talk, and there she gave me an ultimatum. She said I can either swallow my pride and buy my daughter the car, or she will buy the car out of her own money. My wife doesn't earn as much as me, but still has a well-paying job and can afford it. She said that everyone is sick of my attitude in public, that every time we go out I get in some sort of altercation or disagreement with someone over some petty crap. I think this is a gross over-exaggeration, but my wife showed me texts from my daughter asking if she can go out with just my wife because I always do something to embarrass everyone. My wife refused, and defended me saying that's not true, and that's why when I got in that argument my wife said nothing about my daughter's actions. She said she isn't going to punish my daughter because I can never keep my mouth shut, especially when my daughter said she didn't want me there because something like this would happen, and she defended me only to be made to look like a fool. She says that my daughter barely likes me as it is, and if I do this I shouldn't be shocked when she stops talking to me completely. I asked my wife if all I am to my daughter is a piggy bank, and she told me to stop playing the victim. She said it's up to me what I do with my money, but my daughter will be getting the car one way or another, so I can either make her hate me for no reason, or I can swallow my pride and get her the car myself. Don't really know where to go from here. What would you do? Update 3. After everything, I called my daughter and over because I wanted to talk about everything. My wife said to just let it go, but clearly everyone had a problem with me that I didn't know about, so I wanted to get to the bottom of it. I waited for my son to get home, and my daughter drove round a little later. We all sat down and decided to talk. I started by asking for actual examples, rather than just accepting their word for it. And honestly a lot of it sounded ridiculous. The fact that I sent back a steak twice because both times it was undercooked, as if it's a crime to want a 180-pound steak cooked correctly, the fact that I argued with someone who sat in our assigned seats at a cinema even though it was nearly empty, again, as if it's a crime to want to sit in the seat I paid for when there's dozens of other places for these people to sit, and other equally silly things which I can't be bothered to get into and don't even really remember as a result of the insignificance of it. Despite me thinking that it was all ridiculous, I said I would do my best to be a meek pushover in public if that was the only way to get them to like me. And that I would get the car on one condition, that my daughter hadn't actually texted the guy who abused me. I asked to look at her messages, and she said not to even bother, because she had texted him and I didn't have the right to control who she talks to. I said that is true, but I do have the right to spend my money on whatever I want, and I'm not getting my daughter a car. She has one that works fine. And even if I am an ass, in a situation where her family is getting threatened, she sided with the aggressor and then doubled down on that. And that is unforgivable. My daughter blew up at me, and said that I am a petty little pig-headed man, with a Napoleon complex, and that all the money in the world hasn't stopped me from being a loser. I said oh yeah, because the guy who screams at old men is such a winner. And she screamed at me that I'm not a victim, and then something about how cathartic it was to watch someone stand up to me, and that how the second he did she watched me shrink back into the little man I've always been growing up. That was the last straw. I told her to get out. But she doubled down and told me that my wife had told them about me being bullied growing up, and that was why I am the way I am. I saw my wife turn pale as a ghost at this comment. This is something I confided in her in private. Clearly this is why my daughter stopped respecting me. Obviously I wasn't cool enough for her or whatever. I was speechless, but my daughter carried on. She said make a genuine promise to your son so he can still go to Cambodia, and ask him what he really thinks. I just nodded. Her brother begged not to be put in the middle of this, but I insisted. All he said was sometimes you can be a bit much, Dad. My daughter called him a pussycat, and just walked out. My son ran off to his room, and my wife drove off after my daughter. She didn't come back last night. My son left for university without saying a word to me. I've barely slept a wink. I can't believe it. I'm a cliché. A rich old man whose family hates him. If I was lost before, now I'm genuinely clueless about what I'm supposed to do. I have a bad feeling about this. I think I'm going to be abandoned and my wife will file for divorce.
I asked a lot of questions, so my soon-to-be mother-in-law humiliated me for being stupid, but my husband didn't defend me, and now I'm questioning whether I should cancel the wedding. I, 23 feet, am engaged to John, 24 meters. We have been together for 5 years and plan to get married in July 2025. I always thought his family liked me because we get along well. He has 2 older brothers, 26 meters and 29 meters, both married. Honestly, I was very excited to have them all as my in-laws. They have always been kind to me. Some important information: about a year ago, while scrolling on Instagram, I came across a profile that was cringy but in a cute way. It belonged to an older woman who shared inspirational quotes. I remember one particular post that said something like, "Only stupid people pretend to know everything. Don't pretend. Just ask." This quote changed me in many ways. Before that, I was always worried about embarrassing myself if I didn't know something. After reading that quote, I realized that if I always pretended to know everything, I'd miss out on actually learning. So, I decided to change my habits and start admitting when I genuinely didn't know something. If someone is talking about the war in Kosovo, I ask questions to understand the topic better. And I do ask a lot of questions sometimes. I even open the Notes app and write down questions that I want to find answers to later. Here are my latest ones. How does time work in a black hole? Why do some snails have shells and others don't? What food is okay for ducks? How does the light bulb work, the old ones with gas inside? Does everyone see colors the same way? And how can we know that? Sorry for the long introduction, but it's necessary for understanding what kind of person I am. I know I might sometimes come across as annoying. Now on to the problem. His parents hosted a small barbecue last weekend only for the family. So it was his mom, 54 feet, dad, 59 meters, brothers, and their wives. I was the last person to show up because I had to work late. As I was walking towards the backyard, I heard John's mom talking about me. To be honest, she wasn't just talking about me, she was mocking me. I heard her say in a high-pitched voice, "How does the sun work? Where should I put the fork? Why does nobody like me? How do I wipe my ass?" I just stood there with a sinking feeling. I couldn't move, so I just stood there. And I heard them all laughing. One of the wives said, "I actually don't mind her always asking questions. I think it's cute," which made me hopeful that they would say something like, "Yeah, sure, we're just playing, we love that." But none of them did. Instead, the mom replied, "It's not cute. She's just stupid." After that, they laughed again. I heard John laughing. My heart broke in that moment because he didn't say one positive thing. He didn't defend me. He just laughed. I quietly turned around and left the house. I texted John that I got sick and had to stay home. Now I'm wondering how I should approach this situation. We live together, and I've been sleeping in the guest bedroom for now, using the excuse that I don't want him to get sick from being around me. I can't ignore him forever, and I can't pretend to be sick anymore because it's been too long. I'm not sure how to proceed. Maybe it was just a misunderstanding. I'm considering talking to them about this, but I'm worried they won't be honest with me. I can't marry him if he really thinks I'm stupid. But I also can't marry into a family who thinks so little of me. But maybe it was a joke and I shouldn't take it so seriously. I'm so torn apart, and every day I convince myself a bit more that it's okay, and sometimes we should all laugh at ourselves. Now I feel like I'm just going crazy. I would really appreciate some advice. Edit. Many comments say they cannot stand people like me. I agree that sometimes I can be a bit too much with the questions, but with that being said, I still think I'm within reason. I don't do it around people I just met, I rarely do it at parties or other gatherings. I usually do it with people who are close to me, who I think wouldn't judge me, or with people who specifically have knowledge about something and are willing to share it. If I'm part of a conversation, I'm not rude and I don't interrupt. I usually just ask one or two questions. If a discussion is about climate change, I'm not asking about monkeys. I'm also not a complete dumbass. I don't ask questions that generally would be considered dumb to other people. Those I just write in my notes and check answers for later on the internet. I'm capable of reading, so I make good use of it. But after all, I still do ask a lot of questions. Update. First of all, thank you to everyone who reached out to answer my questions about black holes, snails, ducks, light bulbs, and other topics. I would love to have you as my friends. For those who said I should just shut up, I don't really care if you find me annoying or hard to be around. I'm okay with that. I don't exist to please everyone. I'm just here to have a good time, pursue my own interests, and learn. Most of you told me to break up with him and at the very least confront him, so that's what I decided to do. You gave me the push and confidence to do it. Before confronting John, I texted the wife of John's brother, the one who said she liked me asking questions, and asked if we could meet up for coffee. She agreed. We met, and I didn't see the point in pretending I didn't hear their conversation. After some small talk, I said, "I heard you all talking about me during the barbecue." She immediately got sad and said she felt embarrassed. She explained that it wasn't a joke or out of context, it was just mean and hurtful. She apologized for not defending me more, but I told her it's okay and I understand. I wanted to ensure I understood the situation and see it for what it really was, bullying and laughing at me behind my back. At this point, I had to confront John. In my last post, many comments warned that he might try to gaslight me, and you were right. We had dinner together for the first time since the barbecue. I had been avoiding him. I know, not very mature, but other than you guys, I don't have a strong support system. My family and best friends are hundreds of kilometers away, and I only have 2 good friends here. I was so stressed I thought I might pass out. My legs were shaking, and I was terrified because I knew deep down that this moment might end my 5-year relationship. I looked him in the eyes and asked, "How does the sun work?" He looked confused, so I followed with, "Where should I put my fork? Why does nobody like me?" At this point, realization hit him, and he started nervously laughing. I said I was there and heard them. After the initial shock passed, he got mad and said it was rude to eavesdrop. I said it's rude to bully people. He tried telling me it was just a joke and that I shouldn't be so uptight. He said it was really funny. I said I didn't find it funny and went to the guest room to calm down. He started panicking, asking me to please talk to him. He became much more apologetic and said he would be 100% honest with me. I asked if his mother had made similar comments before the barbecue. He said yes. I asked if he ever defended me. He said he tries to. I don't know if I believe him. He told me he loves and respects me. I don't know if I believe that either. I said I love him too, but I need a break. He's all I've ever known. He was my first and only partner. I have no outside perspective, no experience. I need a moment to think. I'll be staying at my friend's house for a while to think everything through. The apartment lease is in his name anyway. After gathering some of my things and leaving, he kept texting me nonstop. He tried calling, but I didn't respond. I was very hurt because he tried to belittle my feelings and only started apologizing when he realized I might break up with him. The next day, I decided to give him another chance to explain himself and came back to the apartment. He seemed very sad and tired. He said he told his mother that I overheard them. I said I don't care. It's his time to step up and show me that he cares. I'm not interested in an apology from his mother. I'm already done with her. I can't put up with this behavior and being mocked like we're in primary school. I saw a comment saying her ego is probably hurting. I think it's true. She never had the chance or desire to pursue an education. She's a very good homemaker but doesn't have many interests outside of that. If I ask her about making tomato soup, she'll lecture me for 30 minutes about adding enough sugar but not too much. She'll lecture anyone willing to listen. But when someone talks about something she's not familiar with, she gets defensive and tries to imply that nobody cares about it, and if it's not relevant to her, it shouldn't be discussed. Once again, John tried telling me to relax because it was just a joke, and at this point, I'd had enough. I took off my ring and told him that his behavior is a joke and I can't be the punchline. I wished him and his family the best and told him to look in the mirror to see if they're really as superior as they think. I said I'd be back with my friends soon to pick up the rest of my stuff and not to contact me again unless it's about moving my things out. And that's it. I'm done. Thank you all for the advice. Without you, I wouldn't have had the confidence to leave this man. I know I deserve better. I can't be with someone who can't stand up for me, and I wouldn't be able to feel comfortable around his family, so I'm done with the relationship. I hope they treat his next girlfriend better. Thank you again for the advice.
Relevant comments. To answer some of your questions, peas are good for ducks, they really love frozen ones, and it's fun watching them gobble them up. Black holes are weird. To an outside observer, time appears to slow down and eventually stop at the event horizon. What happens beyond that is speculation. I don't think we have the physics to explain it yet. But to someone near the black hole, time would seem to pass normally, because they too are slowing down. There's a half-decent explanation here. It has a lot of math, but you can skim those bits and still understand the gist of it, I think. Seeing colors is something philosophers and psychologists have been arguing for ages, and we will probably never really know. Barring disability, we all detect the same range of wavelengths, and societally we have agreed on basic divisions of those wavelengths to different colors along the spectrum. People arguing whether a certain color is more blue or green probably stems from where exactly they each placed those divisions when they were learning colors more than something in their eyes being different. But whether we are actually seeing the same wavelengths the same way, like, if I hopped into your head, using your eyes and brain, would the world look the same to me? There's no real way to know that. Snails, the short answer is evolution. Probably a type of snail with shells split off from slugs and diversified from there while ones without just kept going on and adapting to their environment in different ways. Like how some dinosaurs developed wings and became birds, and the rest didn't, and then died from an asteroid for the most part. Light bulbs depends. Are you talking like the halogen light bulbs that still have a filament but the bulb is filled with halogen gas? Or neon and fluorescent ones where there is just gas, no filament? Halogen, basically the same as any filament bulb. Electricity goes through, the filament is much thinner than the copper wires bringing the pier to it, so the electricity sort of backs up. It can't pass through the filament as easily, but more is still flowing all the time. So instead of all that energy just flowing through the wire filament, some of it is converted to heat energy, making the filament heat up until it glows red hot. Unfortunately, what also happens is that with all this heat, some of the tungsten from the filament evaporates, technically sublimates, since it's going from a solid straight to a gas, and deposits on the inside of the light bulb. That's why old light bulbs tend to look like they have darker glass. Eventually, enough of the tungsten is evaporated that the filament gets too fragile and breaks. In a halogen light bulb, they put a little bit of a halogen gas in the bulb, which causes a chemical reaction to occur. The tungsten evaporates, reacts with the gas to produce a new chemical that then reacts with the hot filament, depositing the tungsten back where it belongs and allowing the gas molecules to return to their original form. This makes them last longer. And because the filaments are made more durable, they can operate at a higher temperature, which means they put out more light. Neon and fluorescent bulbs are just gas, with an electrode at each end, and a mix of gases in the tube between. Electricity flows to one of the electrodes, and since it has nowhere to go, the energy reacts with the gas molecules. They get excited and produce a glow, but in glowing lose the electron they had picked up, but that electron is picked up by another gas molecule, etc. until the whole thing is glowing. Different mixes of gas produce different colors. At the far end, the other electrode picks up dropped electrons, which flow through it as electricity again, completing the loop. I think there might be a few differences between neon, fluorescent, and like sodium lamps that are usually used for floodlights and the like, but the basic mechanics are the same as far as I know. Hope that helped, and also your possible future family are jerks. Intellectual curiosity is awesome. As long as you aren't constantly interrupting conversations to ask questions and disrupting the flow of someone's story or something like that, you're fine. They're jerks. If you are interrupting a lot, maybe work on keeping the questions for later, when there's a natural break in the discussion, or approaching someone who mentioned a thing you want to know more about afterwards to ask if they can either help you or point you to good resources where you can learn for yourself.
I banned one of my cousins from my wedding, as she's mentally unstable, but now it's backfired because she sabotaged my wedding. I, 25 feet, am getting married this coming spring. I have a cousin named Rose, 25 fish, who was around a lot while we were growing up. Her mother is my mother's sister, and they have always been super close. My mom adores Rose and her siblings for some reason, so we spend a lot of holidays and summers together when we were kids. The thing is, Rose is crazy. Her brothers are fine, but Rose is crazy. Every time we were together, she would have a meltdown and throw a temper tantrum if things didn't go her way, and it never made any sense. For example, she would throw fits whether we went to the beach or didn't go to the beach. She even broke some of my stuff. She just seems like a very unstable girl. We stopped spending so much time together when Rose's dad got a job in a different state and they moved away, so they couldn't afford to fly back as frequently. It's been a while, and I still follow her on social media. She posts a lot about mental health stuff. She goes by a new name, has a new look, and she's even dating some guy. But I don't think it's authentic. I think she's trying to reinvent herself because she used to be such a brat and is trying to make people forget how she used to treat them. I'm pretty sure she is BPD. This Christmas was at my mom's house, and my fiancé and I figured we would hand out the wedding invites there to avoid the risk of them getting lost in the mail. Most people at Christmas got an invite, but Rose, naturally, wasn't invited. I don't want her ruining our special day or anything. She was pretty mellow and was talking about her new job and stuff. She came up and told me that she noticed her brothers had gotten an invite but that I had forgotten to give her one. I told her I didn't think she would want to come, since nothing ever seemed right for her when we used to get together. She seemed really taken aback, apologized for how she used to act because she had a lot of stuff to deal with, and said she was sorry that I didn't think she could change from when she was a kid. I held firm because this is the first time she's ever apologized to me for how she tried to ruin stuff, and I think she was just trying to manipulate me into getting her way like she always used to. Her family realized she had never gotten an invite, and one of her brothers called and asked why his sister wasn't invited. I reiterated that I didn't feel comfortable with a mentally unstable woman at my wedding, And he got angry and said that I was stupid for being mad at something that happened so long ago and that I was being ridiculous and bigoted. He said he didn't want to come either and hung up. Then Rose's mom called my mom and said that if her daughter was the only family member not invited, she wasn't going to attend. Now my mom is upset that her sister and nibblings, her word, aren't coming and begged me to just invite Rose. But you can't fully cure mental illness, and I don't want her coming and smashing my cake or something. Am I wrong for this? Update 1. I don't believe she has truly improved the way she acts like she has. The reason why I don't want her there is because I feel like she could be a potential threat to my wedding, and I don't want all the attention to be on her having a breakdown or her trying to smash my cake or interrupt my vows. My mother, who is very close with her mother, is also threatening to pull funding because I'm acting ridiculous for not inviting all of her nibblings. It's causing so much drama, and with my aunt and my mother deciding to take back the offer of money, I wouldn't be able to fully pay for the venue we already have booked. The invites were given out about a month ago, and I'm surprised and disappointed that the drama hasn't blown over since then. People suggested to get extra security to shadow my cousin specifically. It looked like that was the only way to keep this venue, so I brought it up with my fiancé, and he said he was fine with hiring someone or even having one of his relatives shadow her the entire time to make sure she didn't try anything. I mentioned it to my mother, but she didn't like the idea. She says my cousin isn't a threat, and I'm being awful towards her. I tried to explain that, rationally, it was the best option. My cousin is a mentally ill woman, and I doubt the venue would appreciate us inviting someone with a known history of destruction and meltdowns. This way, she can have her nieces, nephews, and sister at the wedding, and I can have slightly more peace of mind. I'm trying to maintain this boundary, but my mom still insists that I'm being awful for some reason. I'm just trying to maintain the peace while feeling safe at my own wedding. Edit. For everyone implying that my mother is fully funding my wedding, that isn't true. She is contributing a significant amount, but I did not ask her to. She offered. If I had known that the money came with strings attached, I would have chosen a cheaper venue when planning. Pulling out now would lose my deposit, which I paid for, and cause me to have to do a lot of rescheduling and replanning. I'm not going to give in and let some psycho ruin me and my fiancé's day. To those recommending I go low or no contact with my mother, that isn't an option. I love her and she loves me, and I'm not going to destroy our relationship because of some psycho. Update 2. People are making assumptions about me and my feelings towards the LGBT community and transgenderism that are irrelevant to my post about my cousin. My cousin is female and mentally ill. My cousin is not a man and has never told me that she thinks she's a man. I think that a woman is allowed to want to feel safe and secure at her own wedding without misogynistic slurs being thrown at her and being forced to accommodate mental illness at a celebration that is not for the mentally ill woman. I am not going to elope, and I am not going to cancel. I know my mother loves me, even if she also likes my cousins, and would not abandon me. My fiancé stands by me no matter what and agrees with my stance on the whole thing. I appreciate all the actual advice I've received. My cousin will be invited to placate my mother, and I've told her that I will invite her and not hire security. My fiancé's cousin will shadow her the entire time if she makes it into the venue. She will not be allowed to bring A+1. If she does not stick to the dress code, she will not be allowed in. The dress code is simple and already established, a formal or semi-formal dress for female guests, and a suit for male guests, all within my wedding colors. It's pretty standard for weddings, so if she can't manage that, then oh well, I can tell my mother I tried to accommodate her. Update 3. Here's the background if you've just joined us, or recap if you've been here from the start. I'm getting married this spring. Around Christmas, I sent out the invites to the family I wanted there but did not invite Rose, my cousin, because I did not get along with her when we were growing up and I haven't seen her in a long time. I didn't want her there, and I didn't think she would want to attend anyway. She's a bit of a tomboy, and I doubt she'd want to put on a dress and spend the day at a fancy party with us. But my mother is very close to her mother, and both of them were contributing money to help fund my wedding for the venue I wanted and already have booked. Because I didn't invite her daughter, my aunt said she was not attending along with Rose's brothers, and would not help pay for the wedding. It wasn't a lot of money, so I could eat the cost for that, but then my mom got upset that her sister and niece and nephews wouldn't attend and is threatening not to pay unless I invite Rose and apologize for snubbing her. At first, I was really stubborn, But I don't want to switch venues and catering this late into the planning because it would delay things, so I bit the bullet and sent Rose an invite. But I never got a response from her, and I wanted to check if she at least received the invite. I wanted to show my mom that she was choosing not to go, so I reached out to one of her brothers. But he was very rude and immediately blew up at me, refusing to listen or help. He also made unprovoked and classist attacks on my fiancé. How can I convince my mother to stay on my side, and how can I get Rose to respond to me? I really do want to repair our relationship and have a smooth wedding day. I just feel like everything has been going so well, and now this year it's all crumbling at the last minute. Update 4. I appreciate all the people who gave advice on my last update, even if they were unnecessarily rude about it. The day after, Rose finally called me to say she had received and rejected my invite. She was nasty about it, but she's always been a bit of a brat. She said she didn't care about my wedding and didn't want to be part of more stupid fudging family drama, which I think is hypocritical because she always starts the drama. So she and her brothers and parents aren't attending, and my mom and some other guests are upset about that, but it's all manageable. I went to breakfast with my mom this morning, and we sat down and spoke about the wedding. I took advice from my last post and told her that if she continued to favor a cousin over her daughter, I would never speak to her again, and she would not be invited to the rescheduled wedding. A lot was said, but she broke down and admitted that she was bluffing and didn't actually want to ruin my big day. She was just upset with how I had acted around the holidays and hoped that her threat would be a wake-up call. I apologized and acknowledged that I didn't realize how hurtful my actions would have been perceived. She essentially raised me by herself, and I have always tried to live by the values she instilled in me, even if they aren't always popular with others, and I told her this. So the wedding should still be on course. I still have to find the money to make up for what my aunt would have paid, but I don't think it's a lot, and my fiancé will probably be able to cover it. Thank you again for all the advice. Update 5. I was supposed to get married today, but my cousin sabotaged my wedding and my fiancé called it off. I can't really blame him for calling it off because it was for financial reasons. But I feel like I can't talk to him about it because I'll start saying things that I regret. I was set to get married today. I settled things with my mom, who agreed to pay, and I even offered my cousin an invite and apologized for excluding her when I initially sent out the invites. But she brushed me off and said she didn't want to go to my wedding. My aunt never accepted the apology and still refused to pay. I thought that was fine because my fiancé could make up the difference, and I asked my dad if he was willing to contribute more. He divorced my mom when I was a kid, and we're not super close anymore because of it, but he still offered some money. But neither of them was able to pitch in anymore, and my savings also aren't enough unless I wanted to completely wipe them out or take out a loan, which I don't think is a good financial choice. I want the perfect wedding, but I don't want to go into debt for it. I finally decided to fold and look for another venue, but all of the ones I wanted were booked for the rest of the year. Last month, my fiancé told me we should postpone the wedding for a year so that we could find the perfect venue that we could afford. I had to call all my friends and family members who still wanted to go and basically tell them I was too poor to get married this year. It was humiliating. All of this is because of my cousin, who got pissy that I didn't want her at my wedding, and she doesn't even want to go to the wedding anyway, and did her best to turn my family against me. Final update. We still had a 2-week Mediterranean cruise scheduled as our honeymoon, so he said we should just go on it as a normal vacation to try and unwind after the disaster of a year I've had so far. It was nice. But near the end, he got more and more distant. Once we landed back home, I joked it was back to wedding planning, and he got very serious and admitted that he doesn't think planning a wedding is a good idea. He said the family bullcrap drama had made him reconsider, and he thought that the cruise would soften the blow. I was crying and said I'd cut off the family members and obviously, we would never see the psycho relative ever again. But he said it wasn't just that I had crappy crazy family members. It's been almost a week since he was last home. He's staying with his brother. I'm numb at this point. Everything's gone off the rails. The cruise actually made me feel worse, like he just wanted to have fun and was using me for sex before dropping me. I hate all of this. I blacked out at my baby's 1-month birthday party, but my husband is furious that I made him look bad because he wasn't taking care of me. Now he's sending awful texts about me and our baby. So, recently I, 27 feet, had a beautiful baby girl with my husband, 29 meters. She's my pride and joy, I love her more than I love myself. But, taking care of her has taken its toll on me. My husband promised the work would be 50-50 when we agreed we wanted children, but I don't feel that's being reflected by his actions this past month. It's gotten to the point where I can't even ask him to wash her up without him saying something along the lines of, "My paternity leave is short, I want to make the most of it by relaxing a bit. I'll help you out later." And I get it. His paternity leave is only 6 weeks while mine is 16 weeks, but my nether regions hurt like a biscuit for a better part of 2 weeks after the birth, and all he could do for me was occasionally burp her. Now, my baby girl has gotten to a phase where she doesn't want to sleep. She'll sleep for an hour, but then she's up and back to crying and I have to get up and try to soothe her. It's been happening for a week now and I've gotten so little sleep that I'm nodding off while eating or doing the laundry. Saturday was the 1-month birthday of my daughter's birth, so I decided to gather both sides of the family to meet her. They hadn't met her prior for 2 reasons. I wanted to rest as much as I could, and I heard somewhere that you shouldn't be taking babies out and about when they're freshly cooked because they're more prone to illness then. So, we had this gathering at my mother's house and all was well. Everyone was cooing over our baby, there was food, people were catching up or meeting for the first time. It was nice. But, I had gotten about 3 hours, generous estimate, of sleep in total the past week and I was starting to feel the effects of it. I was feeling lightheaded and clammy, but I didn't want to make a scene, so I tried to go to a bedroom to lie down. I didn't take 10 steps before my vision completely blacked out. I wasn't down for long, but I had fallen over, which drew some attention. I explained to everyone who was concerned that I was fine and that I was just not getting enough sleep, and I could see my husband visibly frown at that. They gave me some of the dessert my aunt made to get my sugar up and the party continued. I felt embarrassed about the whole thing, especially since everyone was still looking over me till we left, but it's whatever. What bothered me is my husband's reaction. When we got home, he started going off on me about how I made him look bad and like he wasn't taking care of me. I was confused on how the frick me passing out made him look bad, but he refused to explain himself and had a pity party for himself in the kitchen. I was still feeling bad, so I decided to leave him alone and just to go sleep, but he seems to have taken that as a sign that I don't care about his feelings. He's in my ear this morning about how I just ignored him to go sleep last night and how I didn't even put the baby to sleep before leaving. Do you guys agree with him? Update 1. So I tried talking with him, but he's been ignoring me and the baby the last 3 hours. I'd usually wait longer, but I'm just too tired to deal with this right now. You guys were right, I do need help with this. And he's made it very clear he's not ready to help me yet, so I'm just going to go to my mom's place. I'm currently packing. I'm so done. Update 2. Yesterday, before I could Uber to my mom's house, my sister offered to help me, so I'm staying with her instead. She's taking time off work to help me out with my girl, which I'm very grateful for. She also gave me sleep medicine that knocked me out for hours. I'm not sure if that was a good idea or not, but I slept long and well, so I don't care. I woke up a few hours ago to tons, and I mean tons, of messages from my husband. Like, the little app icon had 99 plus on it. Here are some of the things he said. You can't just up and bloody love with my babe. Come back now plus let's talk about it. You're actually so immature, what is wrong with you? We have one argument and you pretend like I've been beating you, why the hell did you leave? We can work this out like adults, yet you're choosing to be difficult like a little cowboy. Plus just come back, we will talk and sort this out and we can go back to being happy, so come back. I miss my baby girl, you can't just take her away. What if I call the police for kidnapping? Would that teach you what you're doing is wrong? It's a bit weird to tell y'all what he's been texting me, but I'm mad right now and this feels therapeutic. I already sent the screenshots to his mom though. As for my baby, I have an appointment with a pediatrician for Wednesday. But for now she's on formula since my breast milk quality isn't the best for understandable reasons. My sister said she wasn't as fussy as I described, so I really think the problem is with my milk. That or my sister wanted to make me feel better for sleeping, who knows? I'll wait for the doctor's opinion. I'm not feeling 100%, but I feel a whole lot more better than before. Thank you to everyone who showed concern. Update 3. For all of you who wanted to know what his mother's reaction was, she yelled at him and he made that my problem. The things he's messaged me are vile. And even though my mother-in-law was mad at him and knows what he's been saying to me, She still insisted that I go visit him face to face so we can work things out. I don't really blame her. He's her son, of course she'd still want to help him, but still. With all the ways he's been threatening me and cussing me out, I really didn't want to see him, but I decided to go. Mostly because I needed the stuff that I left at our house. I went with my sister for safety, obviously. We got there and he played with our baby. He offered to feed her. She wasn't hungry, just acting completely different from the man texting me about how much of a heartless cow I am. I didn't really feel comfortable having him near me or the baby with how violent his texts were, but she's still his baby. I don't think the courts would favor him after I show his texts, but I thought I should rather be safe and allow him some form of contact before going to court. This was a mistake. At the end of the visit, I decided I should go pack my stuff, since that was one of the only reason I agreed to come. But I didn't feel comfortable not being there while he had my baby. Yeah, my sister was there and I trust her, but I'd rather watch her with my own eyes. So, my sister went upstairs to pack for me. As soon as she was gone, he started talking about see? I'm good now, I can take care of her. And other stuff, but that wasn't the problem. Even if he became super dad, I wouldn't be able to see him the same. Not after all those messages he sent me. I told him that and he got pissed at me. I was getting worried since my daughter was still in his arms, so I tried to de-escalate his feelings. It didn't work and he started yelling at me for being heartless and stubborn and whatnot. I wasn't really focused on what he was saying, I was focused on my baby. I tried to reach out for her and he shoved me hard enough to fall back. My sister came down and tried to help, but he shoved her away too and ran to the guest room and locked himself and my baby in there. He refused to come out unless my sister left and I stayed behind. I can't tell y'all how scary it is to not know what's happening to your child. It took officers almost 30 minutes to get him out, which pissed me off. Like I know they were probably trying to assess the danger or whatever, but I just wanted my baby. In that 30-minute window he could have shaken her or threw her out the window or something and they were there asking him to come out like he was a child and not breaking down the door. She was fine, though, so I can't be too mad. They didn't arrest him since no harm was done even though my sister and I have bruises to prove otherwise, but they held him outside while I packed my stuff. It actually bothers me that they didn't at least detain him, but there's not much I can do about it now. I don't think I'm going to go near him again. Not with my baby. I'm thinking of going to apply for that emergency custody thing y'all were talking about. I'm still shaken. It's really depressing, for a lack of better word, seeing how much he's changed. I really loved him and I felt he loved me too. How he's acting is crushing me. I feel deflated. My baby girl and my sister are really the only things keeping me going right now. I don't think I want to continue updating. Just know that we're splitting up. Thank you all for your support. Also, after visiting the doctor, I've decided to just skip the hassle and formula feed. She seems happier with formula anyways.